بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أهلا وسهلا بكم في دبلوم الأمن والسلامة، ونرحب بكم جميعا ونسأل الله لنا ولكم التوفيق والسداد. اليوم سنتحدث عن اليوم العالمي للسلامة والصحة المهنية وتعزيز بيئة العمل الآمنة. بسم الله. الو 1 2 3 1 2 3. السلام عليكم.
We've been living with the COVID-19 pandemic now for more than a year, and the impact on safety and health has, as we all know, been absolutely massive. Everyone in the world of work has had to deal with the risk of infection. Working indoors in close proximity to colleagues or the public has created additional risks, as has shared transport, shared eating places, and accommodation. But some of those workers that we depend upon most have been even more exposed. I'm thinking particularly of emergency staff, social services and healthcare staff, but there are many more. And as the pandemic has unfolded, we've also seen how its threat extends beyond infection by the virus itself. People with work-related non-communicable diseases have been unable to get the treatment that they need. And some new working practices, and we discovered many of them over the last year, such as teleworking, have themselves created their own OSH issues. Here we can think of psychosocial, ergonomic, and chemical hazards. There's also been an increase in work-related stress and even violence and harassment. And so I think that there could be no clearer demonstrations than these of the importance of a strong, resilient occupational safety and health environment, both for recovery and for prevention. And this will require better national policies, institutional and regulatory frameworks, properly integrated into crisis response frameworks. We will need effective information and advisory services. We will need sound data collection and research, all of this backed up by good multilateral cooperation and adequate investment. Governments, employers and workers' organizations will all need to be involved and to work together. Social dialogue will be vital so as to agree and to implement the effective and inclusive responses that we need, ones that work for all, including the most vulnerable and those in the informal economy, who are 6 out of every 10 workers. And together with this tripartite cooperation, international labour standards will also play an absolutely crucial role. They showed their worth already during the pandemic, protecting workers and safeguarding decent work, and now they can help to shape the strong, sustainable and equitable recovery that we want needs to be a recovery with safe work for all. Thank you.
Roberto Suarez Santos is the Secretary General of the IOE. Roberto, welcome. Roberto, thank you.
Thank you very much for this invitation. We really appreciate the effort that ALO is taking in this World Day for Safety and Health. Protecting workers' lives and ensuring their welfare has a lot to do with business continuity and business resilience. It's at the top priority for employers already for many years, but the pandemic has underscored the importance of health and safety working environments. There's no doubt about that. And I keep saying that those who believe that health and safety at work will go back to normal after COVID-19, after we hopefully will overcome the pandemic, those who believe that it will go back to the normal after COVID-19 on health and safety at work, health and safety at work should and will be enforced. And we are committed as global employer community for that. But beyond that, what appears clearer and clearer is that there will not be a quick recovery, even less a resilient recovery, if we do not answer properly, if we do not give employees and the workplace the right measures for health and safety at work. We want to be very clear on that. We also have witnessed incredible efforts by workers and employers to adjust work organization, put in place adequate safety protocols in a very, very short period of time, secure protective equipment, encourage workers to adhere to necessary hygiene and distances measures. But there has been many challenges, uncertainties and incoherence among regulations, among protocols, also risk management, etc. Workers are still dealing with this uncertainty when they have to deal with physical distance, with mass ventilations, air conditions, tests, vaccination. We have important set of standards at global and national level. International standards, as Guy Ryder has underlined, gave us a good basis, and we are referring also to Convention 187 post the pandemic. We need good implementation, and we need certainty to create scenarios for greater health protection. And this requires.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ومن تحدثنا عن برامج تعزيز السلامة والصحة المهنية، تهدف السلامة والصحة المهنية في بيئة العمل إلى وضع إجراءات السلامة والصحة في غاية الأهمية. لذلك تهدف السلامة العامة في المنظمة إلى المحافظة على سلامة العاملين والمعدات والحد من حصول إصابات وحوادث عمل، بالإضافة إلى حماية البيئة. وقد اتخذت المنظمة إجراءات عديدة لتعزيز السلامة العامة في مختلف مواقع العمل، وتتلخص هذه الإجراءات فيما يلي: توفير كادر متخصص في مواضيع السلامة العامة والبيئة، تبنى أحدث الأنظمة لإدارة الجودة والسلامة والبيئة، متابعة إعداد وتحديث التعليمات التنظيمية المتعلقة بسلامة العاملين، تشكيل لجنة عليا للسلامة العامة في المنظمة، وتخصيص مراقبي سلامة عامة في المشاريع الرئيسية للمنظمة، وعقد ورش عمل ودورات في مواضيع السلامة العامة والإطفاء لموظفي المنظمة، تثبيت لوحات إرشادية وتحذيرية بمختلف أنواع العمل، متابعة إصابات العمل في مختلف المواقع وإعداد التقارير الدورية، التحقيق في إصابات العمل لمعرفة الأسباب الحقيقية لهذه الإصابة والحد من حصولها مستقبلا. وننوه دائما أن حضور البرنامج التدريبي بدون أو حضور الدبلوم بدون وجود تقييم لك من قبل المهندس فارس بخصوص دبلوم الذي تم تنسيقه مع إدارة منصة تجويد يعد دبلوم لاغي، لأنه يجب أن يتم تقييمك بشكل صحيح حتى تعمل في مجال الأمن والسلامة. وليس مجرد حضور المحاضرات المسجلة فقط. ننتبه هذه النقطة، نقطة مهمة. حضورك للمحاضرات المسجلة بدون تقييم لك من قبل مهندس أو استشاري في مواضيع الأمن والسلامة يعد مخالف للأنظمة، وبالإمكان وجود شخص قد يأخذ هذا الدبلوم ويقوم بعدم حضور أي برامج تسجيلية ويقول أن حضرت هذا. لا بد أن يكون هناك تقييم، وهذا التقييم يعد أولوية في غاية الأهمية. ولذلك شرحنا أكثر من مرة أن متابعة جاهزية معدات إطفاء الحريق عادة هو ما يتم التطلع عليه في أنظمة السلامة والصحة المهنية وأنظمة الإنذار. والاختلاف بين أنظمة الوقاية والحماية من الحريق للإطفاء والإنذار هو اختلاف إما ميكانيكا أو كهرباء. لذلك تقسم أنظمة السلامة الخاصة في الحرائق 3 أقسام. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلين أستاذة صفية. أنظمة الأمن والسلامة بالنسبة للإطفاء والإنذار تقسم إلى 3 أقسام رئيسية. القسم الأول أنظمة الإطفاء المعمارية أو بسموها السلامة المعمارية لأنظمة السلامة، وهي ما تتعلق بمخارج الطوارئ ومسالك الهروب ونقاط التجمع. وعندنا أنظمة السلامة الميكانيكية الخاصة بمعدات المضخات الحريق ومرشات الحريق والطفايات اليدوية ومنافذ الدفاع المدني وغيرها من متطلبات ميكانيكية داخل المنشأة، بالإضافة للغاز الخامل والمعدات السلامة العامة التي تتطلب وجود أعمال ميكانيكية لإطفاء الحرائق. وعندنا رقم 3 اللي هي السلامة الكهربائية. والسلامة الكهربائية تبدأ من سلامة التمديدات الكهربائية، أنظمة الإنذار والإبلاغ والإضاءات والإنارات والإمرجنسي لايت والإمرجنسي إكزيت وغيرها من أنظمة إنذار ممكن حتى ربطها مع الجهات مثل زي الدفاع المدني وغيره. فإذا أنظمة السلامة تقسم من 3 أقسام رئيسية اللي هي خاصة في الأنظمة السلامة الخاصة بالوقاية والحماية من الحريق. لا، النظام الأول نظام الإطفاء اللي هي النظام المعماري والنظام الميكانيكي والنظام الكهربائي، وكل نظام له مخططات تعتمد على حسب التصاميم والتعليمات. المشاركة مع المنظمات والمؤسسات المحلية والعالمية في النشاطات المتعلقة بالسلامة والبيئة والصحة، إعداد برامج التفتيش الدولي والقيام بدورات مراقبة وتدقيق فني على أمور السلامة العامة والبيئة على مختلف المواقع لتأكد مدى مطابقتها عمليتها لأنظمة تعليمات السلامة العامة والبيئة والصحة. إعداد نشرات تثقيفية، وضروري جدا يكون هناك كل فترة إعداد نشرات تثقيفية ترسل للعاملين والذين يعملون في مجال السلامة والصحة، والتوعية ورفع مستوى السلامة والصحة لأفراد العاملين داخل المنشأة. وتعزيز الوعي الوقائي والمعرفة بين العاملين في المنظمة في مجالات السلامة والصحة المهنية والبيئة. متابعة توفير وإعداد لوائح تعليمات إرشادية وتحذيرية حول أمور السلامة والصحة المهنية. دائرة سياسة السلامة المهنية التي تتجه المنظمة أو المؤسسة إلى تفادي حدوث أي ضرر قد يمس بالأفراد أو التجهيزات، فكل العاملين في المراسم أو من ينوب عنهم مسؤولين عن سلامتهم وسلامة من حولهم. تقع مسؤولية التعريف بهذه القواعد على عاتق الإدارة العليا، وذكرنا عدم وجود إدارة عليا تدعم منظومة الأمن والسلامة داخل الجهات. منظومة الأمن والسلامة بمفهومها الشامل وليس المفهوم المقنن أو البسيط كالحراسات المدنية التي تسرع التدريب عليها ومراقبة تنفيذها من أجل ضمان الالتزام بها وحسن الإدارة. من الضروري نؤكد على ما يتعين عدم القيام بالعمل إلا بعد إجراء تقييم مخاطر. دائما من ضمن الإجراءات الرئيسية عدم القيام بأي عمل دون وجود تقييم المخاطر ومواقف إجراءات السلامة المناسبة لمستوى الخطر القائم. يتعين وجود تدريب للأفراد وتوفير الكفاءة اللازمة لديهم. يتعين ارتداء معدات الحماية الشخصية. يتعين وضع خطة لمواجهة الحالات الطارئة، وذلك بناء على مراجعة سيناريوهات الطوارئ المحتملة قبل الشروع في العمل. على كل فرد الالتزام بوقف أي عمل يكون غير آمن. ناتي إلى إدارة التغيير. يتعين عدم القيام بأي عمل ناشئ على التغييرات المؤقتة والدائمة بالنسبة للمنظمة والعاملين والأنظمة، العمليات الإنتاجية والإجراءات أو الرز والمنتجات أو المواد والمهمات، وكذا القوانين واللوائح إلا بعد إتمام عملية إدارة التغيير. إدارة التغيير هي إدارة مهمة جدا، وغالبا يعني يتم مقاومتها من ضمن الموظفين والموظفات ولا يقبلون التغيير بسهولة. لذلك إدارة التغيير إدارة مهمة جدا، وفهمها يعد وسيلة في غاية الأهمية. وفي بعض المؤسسات والشركات الكبيرة توظف إدارة مستقلة كاملة في حال وجود تغيير مثلا جذري في الإدارة العليا أو تغيير في المناصب القيادية، لحيث أنه يتم تسهيل التغيير داخل المنشآت. تتم عملية تقييم المخاطر لمعرفة كل الجهات التي ممكن تتأثر بالتغيير، وضع خطة عمل تحدد بوضوح الجدول الزمني للتغيير وأي إجراءات مراقبة تعين تنفيذها فيما يتعلق بالمعدات، التسهيلات والعملية الإنتاجية، العمليات والصيانة وإجراءات التفتيش، التدريب والعملية واتصالات التوثيق، وتعيين اعتماد خطة عمل من طرف الشخص أو الأشخاص المسؤولين. مهم جدا موضوع إدارة التغيير، لذلك أنت لما تطبق أو أنت لما تطبقين موضوع أن وجود إجراءات وقائية أو إضافة أدوات سلامة أو خلينا نقول إجراءات معينة تتعلق بالسلامة، لابد من وجود إدارة التغيير في وضع المهام الأساسية. ليش؟ لأنه أنت غالبا يعني أمور السلامة تحتاج لتغيير داخل المنشأة، تحتاج إلى تفعيل، تحتاج إلى وضع حلول وآلية معينة لفهم وتسهيل الإجراءات المتعلقة بالسلامة والصحة المهنية، وهذه تعتبر تغيير. فالتغيير غالبا يتم مقاومته من قبل الموظفين والموظفات، وأي شخص عادة أي شيء مثلا في حياة الإنسان اللي تدخل عليه غالبا هو إيش؟ غالبا يحدث هناك عدم رغبة في التغيير، لذلك وجود إدارة فهم هذا التغيير في غاية الأهمية حتى لا تحدث عملية عكسية في مواضيع السلامة والأمان. لذلك حتى في النظام البريطاني دائما يدخل في أول دورة تدريبية يؤخذ مثلا فيها العاملين مثل الأوشا في أمريكا، مثلا في بريطانيا يأخذوا مثلا الآيش يعني الوركينج والمانجينج. الآيش مثلا في النظام البريطاني اللي هي تابع للHSE البريطانية ياخذوا مثلا دورة بسموها الوركينج سيفلي، يعني حتى الأمان في بيئة العمل، يعني ما الأمان يعني بيعتبروا إنه الأمان أو إنه الشخص يتأمن في بيئة العمل في غاية الأهمية. لذلك ودائما يذكروا دائما في القوانين البريطانية، والقوانين البريطانية معروف، والنظام البريطاني والدول اللي تابعة لبريطانيا نظامها ناحية السلامة أقوى بكثير من أي دولة أخرى. ومن ضمن أفضل الدول ممارسة للسلامة والصحة عندك سنغافورة وبريطانيا وأستراليا، والدول التي تتبع نظام الستاندر اللي هو العالمي الأساس والآيزو 45001، وهم أساسا هم طبعا الأسسوا. وتعتبر سنغافورة ليش؟ يعني سنغافورة تعتبر من أفضل الدول تطبيقا للمعايير، لأن سنغافورة عليها موقع عقود مع الدول بشكل عام ومع المنظمات الدولية إنه يتم تطبيق أي نظام دولي بداية بها. ليش؟ تعتبر زي كأنه هي مش زي حبل يعني التجارب، لكن تعتبر أو يعني حقل التجارب ما بيطبقوه على دولة طبعا، يعني التجارب بالنسبة للأنظمة والسلام أو السيستم ما بيطبقوه، عادة بيطبقوه على يعني مثلا بدهم يطبقوا على يعني عرفوا نظام بيبدأوا مثلا في منشآت معينة، مثلا بيبدأوا منشآت تعليمية بيختاروا مدرستين ثلاثة، مثلا بيبدأوا منشآت ترفيهية بيختاروا منشآت ترفيه واحدة واثنين، بيختاروا مثلا منشآت سياحية، فبيتم هناك التستنج على النظام قبل ما يعمموا النظام الدولي. بعد ذلك يعني بياخذوه بياخذوا دولة واحدة، بعدين بيحطوها لدولة ثانية، وبعدين دولة ثالثة، دولة رابعة، تقريبا يعني أكثر من 10 دول بيتم اتخاذ فيها إدارة التغيير للنظام اللي بده يضيفوه لتقييم المخاطر أو إدارة الأمن والسلامة أو معايير جديدة. بعد ما يطبقوا ويشوفوا إنه إيش الجاب الموجود أو إيش الخطأ الموجود ما بين منظمة ومنظمة أخرى، أو مثلا في مشاكل بين منظمة ومنظمة أخرى، أو في مثلا أخطار ممكن تقع، مثلا أنا مثلا ما بيصلح عندي وضع السيستم هذا فيه مشاكل من ناحية المنظمات، مثلا زي السجون مثلا ما بيصلح عندي أطبق النظام، فبحط هناك مثلا كومنتس عندي وملاحظات إنه السيستم هذا صعب نطبق كل حذافيره في مثلا المستشفيات، في مستشفيات الأمراض العقلية، في السجون، في عند الأطفال، رياض الأطفال، عند الحضانات. فبحدد مثلا معايير عامة إنه هذه ممنوع تدخل فيها هذه الإجراءات لأنها ظروف خاصة. فبعد ما تحط هذه الظروف الخاصة اللي ممكن قد تؤثر على المنشأة، أنا باجي أعمم هذا السيستم، وبعرف بعد ما بعممه على أول دائما دول بيعملوه على سنغافورة، وفي بعض الدول طبعا الآن صارت زي تايوان وغيرهم صاروا يأخذوا هذه الإجراءات بالتغيير، فيتم اتخاذ يعني بيتم تجربة النظام وعمل على تجربة على مستوى الدولة بشكل كامل من ناحية الجهات الحكومية والحيوية. وفي نفس الوقت طبعا شيء مهم جدا انه بيتم التدريب عليه. لذلك لما تعمل اي سياسات واجراءات او بسموها يعني السياسات والاجراءات هي داخلها برامج، يعني البرنامج هذا فيه سياسات اجراءات كيفيه كيف تقوم بالتدريب، الغرض من هذا البرنامج، مين المسؤولين عنه، هذه طبعا كل هذا التفاصيل بسموها بروجرام. تمام. لانه في عندنا حاجه اسمها اداره مشاريع. المشاريع فيها برامج، البرنامج الواحد فيه مشروع. تمام. والمشروع بعدين تحته فيه الخطه تبعته والتنظيم والاخره والخطط والغرض منه والاخره. فموضوع معرفه الاداره بشكل اكبر ومعرفه الخطوط العريضه في التطبيق في غايه الاهميه، ومعرفه انت بمستواك من ناحيه اداره مشاريع او اداره مثلا برامج او اداره تغيير، معرفه مستواك بالنسبه للقوانين والتشريعات والانظمه والفروق ما بين متطلبات ولوائح وتشريعات واوامر وتعاميم. كل هذه لازم الشخص اللي بده يشتغل في وضع الاستشارات العامه او الخاصه داخل منظمه او على مستوى مثلا مدن او على مستوى دول لابد يفهم فيها حتى يكون هناك معرفه فيها. طبعا في هناك حاجه اسمها القانون والتشريعات المحليه وفي قوانين تشريعات دوليه. يعني ايش اللي بيحكم بين دوله ودوله؟ في قوانين دوليه، مين اللي بيتحكم فيها؟ ايش القوانين؟ مين الحكم في القوانين الدوليه؟ عاده في دول كثيره مثلا بتحكم عاده دوله اخرى، يعني هي الحكم. يعني مثلا متوقع اتفاقيه بين دوله ودوله، بيدخل مثلا بيتفقوا اتفاقيه انه بيعطوا الحكم والقانون والاجراءات مثلا مع دوله ثالثه محايده في حال اختلف مثلا الدولتين في القوانين الدوليه. يعني مثلا هذه من ضمن الامور اللي بيتم عاده بين الدول اللي مثلا بينها اتفاقيات سابقه، مثلا اتفاقيات عسكريه، اتفاقيات حكوميه، وبعد ذلك بيتم وضع الاتفاقيات الاقتصاديه واتفاقيات السلامه وغيرها. فمواضيع يعني احنا مثلا على سبيل المثال انا مثلا في ضمن الافتقار الذي لا يمكن وجوده في الانترنت او في المنظمات. مثلا على سبيل المثال انا اقول لك مثلا اعطيني احصائيه كم عدد الحوادث اللي مثلا صارت مثلا بسبب اطفال ما بين 3 سنوات ل5 سنوات على مستوى العالم، في مثلا حوادث مثلا بلع مثلا القروش او ما حتلاقي، يعني التفصيل هذا ما حتلاقيه موجود اصلا، يعني مرات على مستوى مدينه وعلى مستوى محافظه وعلى مستوى قريه. فما بالنا لما نطلب مثلا هذه الداتا والبيانات تكون على مستوى اكبر ونحتاج فيها بيانات اكثر. فمن الصعوبه دائما انه نحن لما نبحث عن معلومه ونقيم هذا الحاله. لذلك هي الاشكاليه انه ليش نحن بنحتاج التقييم ونحتاج نعمل اجراءات؟ لانه غير متوفر عندنا البيانات. فعدم توفر البيانات بشكل واضح هنا بيشكل لنا مشكله في تقييم المخاطر. لذلك تقييم المخاطر اصلا في الاصل يعتمد على الداتا، البيانات. يعني يصير عندك بيانات كم عدد الاصابات اللي صارت سبب هذا السقوط السنه الماضيه، السنه اللي قبلها، السنه اللي قبلها. ما في داتا ما حتقدر انت تقيم المخاطر بشكل صحيح. فهمت علي؟ ونفس النقطه نرجع مثلا عندنا داتا بالنسبه لعدد الحوادث مثلا اللي صارت بسبب الكهرباء او الماس الكهربائي. ما عندك داتا توضح مثلا عدد الحوادث او الاصابات داخل منظمتك او داخل الجهه اللي تعمل فيها، ما حتستطيع تقييم المخاطر. في الاصل يعتمد على البيانات التي حصلت عليها خلال الفترات الماضيه، ومن الضروري جدا تجميع هذه البيانات، لأن البيانات في حالة عدم تجميعها لا يمكن تعمل تقييم المخاطر ولا يمكن التنبؤ بالمستقبل، يعني وتمشي بشكل عشوائي. فغالبا يعني مثلا خلينا نقول عادة اللي ما بيمشي على بيانات عادة بتمشي بعشوائية، وهذا ما يسبب خلاف ما بين إدارة التغيير داخل إدارة السلامة وما بين الإدارات العليا. بيتم تقييم الخطورة، إنه زي على سبيل المثال بيوضعوا حلول مكلفة أو حلول ما هم محتاجينها. يعني مثلا لما يكون في مبنى جديد ومثلا في أنظمة جديدة، تروح أنت مثلا بناء على حادث صار أو حادث واحد صار وما في خطورة عالية، بناء عليها تروح تضع حلول وإجراءات ولازم تقوم بأعمال فنية ولازم التدريب. فهذه مثلا زي هذه الامور مثلا اللي يتخذ فيها قرار يضع الانسان نفسه في وضع غير صحيح. اقل مده ممكن اقدر اقيم الخطر كم؟ ايوه سؤال كويس. تقييم الخطر، نحن ما بنقيم الخطر، ذكرناها قبل امس يوم الاربعاء ذكرنا نحن ما بنقيم الخطر يا صفيه. ذكرنا انه في فرق بين الخطر والمخاطره. نعم، خطر هزارد، مخاطر مفردها مخاطره، تمام؟ مفردها مخاطره، تمام؟ لما حاجه اسمها بيسموها الريسك اسسمنت. الريسك اسسمنت اول نقطه من الاخطاء الشائعه اللي تقام بها انه بيقيمها شخص واحد. الريسك اسسمنت ما بتقيم من شخص واحد، لازم مجموعه من الافراد، ويوصى حسب المدارس العلميه الخاصه بالسلامه انه لازم لا يقل عن 3 افراد، تمام؟ هذا واحد. 2، بالنسبه لاداره المخاطر كم المده؟ هذا يعتمد على طبيعة النشاط وعلى الموقع وعلى البيئة وعلى مدة العمل النشاط. يعني على سبيل المثال، هل أنا مثلا في غرفة مثلا العمليات، في غرفة العمليات لو قلنا كل واحد فينا الآن عياد ولا مبارك ولا صفية مثلا، واحنا دخلنا كلنا غرفة عمليات جراحية، مين فينا بيقدر يقيم الخطر الموجود او المخاطره الموجوده؟ مين بيقدر يقيمها؟ ولا واحد. ليش ولا واحد؟ هنقيم بس ايش؟ نحن هنقيم الشغلات اللي عرفناها، لكن هل انتم بتقدروا تقيموا المخاطره في نفس العمليه الجراحيه؟ انه هل مثلا بيقوم بعمليه جراحيه صحيحه بالمده، بالوضع الاناره الموجوده؟ هنا مهم جدا. انا غير متخصص ولا عارف هذه الامور، فلا استطيع ان اقيم المخاطره الموجوده عندي بشكل واضح. انا بقدر اقيم مخاطره من ناحيه ايش؟ مثلا انه في اكزت، مثلا في عندي مثلا اضاءه مثلا بالجوانب، في حاجه بسيطه، لكن في نفس العمليه انا ما اقدر اقيم المخاطره. هذا 2. اذا انا احتاج مختصين معايا حسب المخاطره اللي بتعامل معها. يعني انا بتعامل مع مثلا أعمال إنشائية، حفريات، أنا محتاج مهندسين مدنيين يقوموا بمعرفة موقع العمل والمخاطرة الموجودة. أنا مثلا بدي أقيم مخاطرة مثلا مطبخ، بجيب مثلا شيف، تمام معايا، يقيم المخاطرة. أنا محتاج أقيم مثلا خلينا نقول مصنع حديد، تسليح وحديد وكذا، أنا محتاج فريق. طيب السؤال اللي سألته صفية، أنا كم أحتاج وقت؟ الوقت هنا يعتمد على حسب النشاط ومدته وبيئته ومقدار عمله. يعني نحن أعطينا أمثلة الآن على مستشفيات، مثلا هسه مصانع. يعني إيش يعني؟ يعني أنا الحين لما أجي على موقع منشأة مثلا زي برج المملكة، أقول لك والله قيمين المخاطر اللي فيها. تقول له طب انا كيف بدي احسبها الان؟ برج كبير جدا، انا بدي الف عليه لحالي، اجيب فريق، طب الفريق هذا كيف بده يقيم؟ طب ايش المخاطره اللي بدي اقيمها؟ هل مخاطره حريق؟ هل مخاطره سقوط؟ هل مخاطره كهرباء؟ هل مخاطره مواد كيميائيه؟ هل مخاطره امنيه؟ هل مخاطره اختراقات؟ هل مخاطر مثلا تقنيه معلومات؟ هل مخاطر ماليه؟ حسب المخاطره. هل مخاطر تسرب مواد كيميائيه؟ هل مخاطره اللي هي بيسموها الكوارث المناخيه؟ ما اقدر احدد ولا يمكن استطيع اني احدد. طيب هنا مين بيحدد؟ المخاطر اول شيء، وتقييم المخاطر يتم تقييم المخاطر. طبعا حنيجي على الدروس هذه خلال الفتره القادمه، لكن سالتوها الان ما في مشكله. تقييم المخاطر يعتمد على عدة أمور. متى أقيم؟ أول شيء أقيم إذا مثلا أحتاج أقوم بعمل ما. يعني أنا مثلا محتاج مثلا أعمل أعمال حفريات، محتاج مثلا موظفين راح ينتقلوا من موقع لموقع آخر، لازم أقيم المخاطرة اللي ممكن تحصل في خلال النقل. مثلا انتم مثلا في المختبر حتقوموا بعمل مثلا دخول مواد الجهاز جديد على سبيل المثال، جايبين جهاز جديد داخل المختبر اللي انتم بتشتغلوا فيه. طيب انتم بتفكروا هل الجهاز الجديد هذا ايش المخاطره اللي ممكن يقعها نتيجه هذا الجهاز؟ تصيروا تفكروا زي كذا. طيب حيجي مثلا تفكر تقول والله التيار الكهربائي ممكن ما يكفي، ممكن يصير لود زياده وهذا حيأثر على الموقع. هتيجي تفكر تقول والله طيب الجهاز هذا موقعه ممكن في حراره، الحراره هذه ممكن تسبب مشكله على اجهزه ثانيه. تصير تفكر زي كذا. طيب نفتح مثلا دليل التشغيل لهذا الجهاز، دليل التشغيل عنده توصيه يقول لك لازم ترفع الجهاز على ارتفاع مثلا متر عن الارض. طب انا مثلا السقف عندي والجهاز طويل ما بيكفي مثلا انه يوصل للسقف على الاخير، ممكن هذا اطول من السقف الموجود على سبيل المثال. طب انا الجهاز اللي عندي ما في مكان له، فبحاول ابحث عن مكان اخر او بديل او اشيل جهاز اخر. طيب الجهاز هذا فيه مخاطره ايضا انه الانسان اللي بيستخدمه محتاج تدريب، فانا بحط جدول تدريب لهذا الجهاز. طيب انا عندي الجهاز هذا فيه مخاطره من ناحيه انه في حراره بيعطي، ممكن واحد ينحشر يده، ممكن تنتشر مواد سامه منه. فانا بعمل ايش؟ بعمل مثلا لوحات ارشاديه، معلومات عنه، بعمل اورينتيشن، بعمل خطر مثلا. تمام. الجهاز هذا مثلا محتاج معدات حمايه، جلافز معين، حمايه للعينين، جوجلز، محتاج ماسك، محتاج فلتره. هذا الجهاز محتاج تهويه معينه، فبطلب مثلا من الصيانه انه وفقا لشركه التشغيل محتاجين تهويه لازم مناسبه للجهاز. كل هذه الامور شوف اعتمدت على جهاز واحد بسيط دخلناه على الموقع. فما بالنا لما نقيم على مستوى مؤسسات، جهات، مواقع. الموضوع مش بسيط انه نقيم نحن المخاطر، وهي من اصعب الامور خلينا نقول. واللي بيفهم فيها طبعا في مجال الامن والسلامه بكون طبعا بيرفكت، لانه كنت كانك زي كانك انت بتجيب ايش؟ بتجيب الحته اللي فيها نقطه ضعف، بتجيب المخاطره نفسها اللي فيها اخطر شيء. ودائما نراعي دائما لما نقيم المخاطره لازم نركز على اكثر امور فيها مخاطره، يعني امور ممكن تسبب وفيات، ممكن تسبب اغلاق منشاه، ممكن تسبب كارثه، ممكن تسبب لا قدر الله وفيات مثلا زي مثلا مثلا عجز، تمام، اعاقه. تمام. كل هذه الامور اللي ممكن تكون بسبب المخاطره لازم نركز عليها، اللي هي اصعب امور او اخطر امور ممكن تقع. بناء عليها على المخاطره بنحط حلول، والحلول هذه طبعا والمعالجات بيتم اتخاذ قرار فيها اذا كان فيها كلف ماليه، فيها اقل من كلف ماليه، فيها توجيه لك مباشره تحل الموضوع بدون الرجوع. هذه تعتمد على حسب سياسه الشركه. نحن مثلا مع الشركات الكبيره مثلا على سبيل المثال ايش بنسوي عشان مثلا تكون الموضوع سهل وبسيط؟ اعتقد الجهات الحكوميه صعب جدا يقوم بهذا الاجراء الا اذا بعد اذا تخصصت كلها طبعا بشكل كامل. بالنسبه للقطاعات الكبيره مثل الجهات الحكوميه ايش بيسووا؟ عاده بيجوا للمسؤولين حقون الامن والسلامه بالذات المدراء الادارات او مدراء الوحدات، بيقولوا له مثلا خلاص ما دام هو عارف في المخاطر وبتحمل مسؤوليه حسب السياسه، بيعطوه عهده ماليه مبلغ معين. تمام. يعني معهده ماليه مثلا ممكن تكون مليون ب 10 مليون حسب 100,000 50,000 حسب قدره الشركه وكبرها، وبيعطوه هذه العهده لما تصير في اي حاله طارئه او امرجنسي له صلاحيه انه يتخذ قرار من خلال عهدته بانه يجيب فريق عمل من برا يتعامل مع كونتراكتور خارجي، هو نفسه يقوم بتوريد امور تتعلق بالسلامه، يعني يتخذ اجراء مباشر بدون الرجوع لاي اداره. تمام. هذه بعض الشركات الكبيره بتعملها. ليش؟ لانه بتحل مشاكل كبيره جدا، لانه لو تدخل في موضوع مشتريات وتنزيل عقود وشراء مباشر حتدخل في دوامه مزعجه جدا
ويمكن تصير الحريق وتطفي وعاد لسه ما جت موافقه لاتخاذ قرار. تمام؟ فهذه من ضمن الحلول اللي بيتم وضعها مباشره، حتى يعني انت لما تقيم المخاطر خلاص تصير انت لحالك تعرف الاجراء. يعني في بعض الناس اللي مثلا المختصين الاستشاريين مباشره حتى بدون ما يعمل تيبلز للمخاطره بيعرف انه هذه خطوره عاليه. يعني على سبيل المثال انت لما تشوف طفل بده يقطع الشارع، ايش هذه الخطوره؟ خطوره عاليه ولا منخفضه ولا متوسطه؟ مخاطره عاليه ولا متوسطه ولا منخفضه؟ قولوا. عاليه. تمام؟ ليش عاليه؟ لانه يعني غالبا 100% انه لو صارت جت سياره صدمت الطفل حيموت. تمام؟ يعني او يصير له اعاقه. فانتوا بناء على ايش قيمتوا؟ ما سوينا جدول ولا سوينا تيبلز ولا شيء، مباشره انت بتلحق الطفل تمسك يده. تمام؟ فهنا مثلا زي هذه الامور، مثلا هذه مثلا مثال بسيط، زي هذه الامور مثلا لما تحصل في جهات او مواقع او تحس انه في امرجنسي، مباشره يجب على مسؤول السلامه في الموقع اتخاذ قرار بدون الرجوع لاي شخص. تمام؟ حتى لو كان فيها كلف ماليه او مثلا فيها مصاريف محدوده، يتم مباشره اتخاذ قرار دون الرجوع للادارات المعنيه. طيب ان شاء الله وضحت يا صفيه المعلومه. الاجابه ممتاز. تمام؟ يعني في امور نقدر نقيمها بسرعه وفي امور نقدر نقيمها اكبر، ما في وقت معين اقدر احدد في انه متى اقيم المخاطره. تمام؟ طيب طبعا موضوع الله يعافيك، موضوع التقييم المخاطر عشان تكون بالصوره ما ينفع الورقي. يعني الان ما في حاجه اسمها ورقي، يعني موضوع الورقي اني امشي على ورق واظل اكتب ما في، انتهى هذا الموضوع لانه الموضوع متغير. يعني المخاطره اليوم 5، بكره بتصير 6، بعده بتصير 7، تمام، بعده بتصير 8، بتزيد. هذا السبب الزياده لانه كل ما زاد الفتره انك ما حلت بتزيد المخاطره. لما يجيك ناس اكثر، لما يجي زوار اكثر، لما يكون في مثلا ناس جدد، لما يكون في فيزيتر في الموقع، لما يكون في مقاولين اكثر، كل ما زادت الفتره بتزيد المخاطره وممكن تقل مع الفتره. فالتغيير هذا اللي قاعد يحصل له متغيرات. فتخيل ان كل شيء قاعد يتغير على ورق، مزعج جدا اصلا، ما ممل الوضع. تمام؟ فلازم يكون عن طريق سيستم، والسيستم هذا طبعا له فانكشن ومعادلات وبرمجه ومربوط حتى في الانظمه. يعني مش مجرد انه والله اقول والله اشتغل يدوي وحتى ابلي البيانات بالكمبيوتر، لا، مربوط في سيستم مثلا زي البي ام اس. مين بيعرف البي ام اس؟ بي ام اس في حد يعرف؟ اللي بيعرف يقول. البي ام اس، في حد يعرف بي ام اس؟ البي ام اس هو البيلدينج مانجمنت سيستم. ايش البيلدينج مانجمنت سيستم؟ هذا بيسموه اداره المرافق او اداره المباني. هذا ايش عباره طبعا هو افضل شيء موجود الان وتقنيه عاليه جدا، وموجود زمان لكن بيستخدموه في الاسواق، المولات، في الابراج. ومهم اللي عنده افرع، يعني مثلا زي اللي عنده افرع مثلا كثيره، مثلا زي وزاره العمل عندها افرع كثيره، اذا بتتابع مثلا النظام على الكل، مثلا اللي في اللي شغال مثلا عندهم مختبرات كثيره، مثلا افرع كثيره، مثلا اللي في وزارات وفي جهات حكوميه اللي عندهم مثلا فروع ومكاتب كثيره، او مثلا بشكل عام منظمات لها فروع كثيرة، لازم يكون عندهم بي ام اس. لانك انت مثلا كمدير اداره او مسؤول وحده او تبغى تصل لمرحله زي كذا لازم تطور السيستم. يعني تطور السيستم يصير تتحكم فيه وتشوفه عن بعد. يعني مثلا عندك البي ام اس، ايش هو باختصار؟ بفتح كمبيوتري او بتفتح مثلا الكمبيوتر، عاده نعتبر الكمبيوتر، بتشوف قدامك المكيفات، تشوف المراوح، تشوف المصاعد، بتشوف انظمه الانذار، بتشوف انظمه الحريق، بتشوفوا كل الاجهزه اللي بتشتغل داخل المنشاه. اجهزه المختبرات اللي بتشتغل، تمام. اجهزه سحب الدخان، اجهزه الافران اللي بتسوي فيها التجارب، اللي بتصدر مواد غازيه كيميائيه وبعدين بنصدرها للخارج، الكاميرات الرقابيه، الاتصالات، كله ببين عندي في شاشه واحده، تمام. بقدر اطفي الاجهزه، بقدر اشغلها، بعرف استهلاك الجهاز كم، بعرف العطل اللي صار في الجهاز، بعرف متى محتاج فحص، بعرف متى محتاج صيانه، بعرف متى محتاج مثلا غاز، بعرف متى انه هذا الجهاز يستخدم اكثر من الحد المسموح فيه باليوم، بعرف درجه حراره الجهاز، تمام. لا مش تقييم المباني يا صفيه، لا هو مش تقييم المباني، هو اداره المباني، تمام. اداره المباني، إدارة المباني غير تقييم المباني، هذا محتاج مهندسين، لأنه موضوع استراكشر وبده فحص وكذا، لا. هذه بتدخل في سلامة المباني، تقييم المبنى بتدخل من سلامة المباني وهي تابعة لمكاتب استشارية. لا، احنا بنتكلم عن إدارة أنظمة المباني داخل الأبراج وداخل المنشأ وداخل المراكز، تمام. كمان الفائده من البي ام اس بيعطيك تفاصيل كامله. طب هذا البي ام اس ايش ربطه في اداره المخاطر؟ في المخاطر مباشره بيرتبط هذا السيستم بسيستم اخر لتقييم المخاطر. فاي حاله عندي في تغيير نشاط مثلا، حتى مثلا على سبيل المثال بحسب لك البي ام اس كم عدد الزوار اللي دخلوا، كم عدد الزوار اللي طلعوا، كم من الناس الموجوده داخل المنشاه، كم شخص موجود، الاستهلاك على دورات المياه، الاستهلاك على ايش اسمه بسموه مثلا المداخل، المخارج، اكثر مثلا اذا عندك مول كبير مثلا، اكثر مثلا محل او موقع بيدخل عليه الزوار بيصير عليه ضغط، تمام. المشاكل الفنيه البسيطه مثلا، زي مثلا خلينا نسميها عطل في سلك، كيف بنعرف؟ تمام. كيف بنعرف مثلا عطل السلك؟ مين عنده خلفيه؟ مبارك. كيف نعرف مثلا عطل بسلك بدون ما نبدا على السلك نفسه ونشوف انه في مشاكل ولا لا؟ مش عارف. كيف نعرف انه في اعطال في الاسلاك؟ اللي قاعد بالسياره او قاعد بيسمع شايفكم كلكم. لا يا مشعل، محلانا ونحن حاطين الاوبوميتر في كل الاسلاك، صعب جدا، صعب، مستحيل. سواء انت عندك مثلا سلك جوا الحيطه، كيف تحط الاوبوميتر؟ صعب. مين يقول؟ مين مر عليه المعلومات هذه سابقا؟ عياد، انتم كونكم في وزاره العمل تدرسوا السلامه والصحه، المفروض تكون مرت عليكم المعلومه هذه، مهمه. فكره ان نجيب مصباح ونحط جنب السلك ممكن، بس مش طريقه عمليه. شفت مره واحد من اخواني، نعم يعني طريقه بدائيه ممكن يعملوها صح، لكن نتكلم مثلا على مباني، مساحات، قبل ما يعني لما صار في خلل في سلك او تمديد، او واحد مثلا ركب مثلا سخانه او ركب حاجه ممكن تسبب خلل في التمديدات الكهربائيه. طيب هذه ببساطه في عندنا حاجه اسمها الفايبر، اسلاك الفايبر هذا في مشروعنا في برج الساعه. مددوا سلك فايبر مع الاسلاك الكهربائيه الممتده في داخل المبنى كله. ايش بتسوي اسلاك الفايبر؟ اسلاك الفايبر لو صار في خلل في جزء بسيط، يعني بملي واحد في سنتيمتر واحد في جزء بسيط من السلك جوا المبنى كله، بيعطي تنبيه للبي ام اس، بقول له في الطابق الفلاني، في الغرفه الفلانيه، في الموقع الفلاني، ترى في مشكله في السلك، او في حدا محمل لود زياده، او في حراره زياده. فروحوا امسكوه او شوفوا السلك شو مشكلته مباشرة. فالتقنية الآن حلت مشاكل كبيرة جدا أصبحت في مواقع العمل، وأصبحت هناك المشاكل الفنية اللي كنا نحن ندور وين المشكلة ونبحث ونرسل فريق عمل وتكاليف رواتب وكذا. لا، طب أنت ركب في السيستم واعمل لك سيستم بتوفر موظفين، بتوفر عمالة، بتوفر حلول كبيرة جدا في التأسيس. وهذا طبعا من التقنيات والحلول المعالجات الفنية اللي من المفترض تكون داخل المجمعات والأعمال الحالية. تمام؟ إن شاء الله تكون خدمتكم المعلومات وفادتكم اللي أعطيناكم إياها. نحن حناخذ بريك الصلاة وإن شاء الله نعود بعد ذلك. طبعا نحن عندنا اليوم الموضوع الإثرائي عن اليوم العالمي للسلامة، وهو يوم طبعا يكون ب 28/4. طبعا السنة هذه كان يركز على الكوفيد 19 ومشاكل العدوى، لأنه مشكلة خلينا نقول شائعة. يمكن حتى لو تعرفوا الآن يمكن كل المعلومات والأحداث اللي قاعد تحصل يمكن الفترة الحالية، يعني الله يستر، يمكن في عودة للإجراءات الاحترازية الأولى، وممكن تكون في تشديد أكثر، وممكن حتى يكون في لقاح ثالث. فالموضوع حتى في دول رجعت تسكر والله يستر. فالموضوع مهم ولابد يعني التركيز فيه في أعمال السلامة والصحة المهنية، لأنه موضوع يعني أغلق منشآت وأغلق شركات كبيرة. يعني شركات الطيران اللي كان مستحيل تغلق تسمى تغلق أصبحت يعني للأسف يعني صرحت جميع موظفينها، وفي مطارات أغلقت، وفي دول حتى يعني ما عاد فيها أي أمور تدخل في أعمال السياحة وغيرها. فالله يستر. فنحن حنشرح الموضوع الإثراء اليوم طبعا عن المؤتمر العالمي لمنظمة العمل الدولية اللي هي ILO، وهي ما تعنى بالسلامة والصحة المهنية. فناخذ إن شاء الله بريك الصلاة. طبعا نحن عرفنا أمس، واعتذر من الجميع، إنه في عندنا شباب وأخوان وأخوات موجودين في مناطق كثيرة في المملكة، يعني من ضمنهم في الغرب وفي الشرق، فنعتذر اللي قطعت الصلاة. واللي موجود في الغرب طبعا في فرق تقريبا يعني محدود 40 دقيقة حسب الجدول. فنحن حنترك نتوقف الآن وحنرجع بإذن الله على الساعة، يعني خلينا ناخذ وقت لهم كويس. واللي طبعا تقدروا تطلعوا من البرنامج، اللي بده يطلع من البرنامج يرجع بعدين ما في إشكالية، حتى ما يتحمل عليك البطارية ولا تخلص عليك الإنترنت. اطلع من البرنامج عادي وارجع الساعة معانا اليوم عشان الكل ياخذ بريك كويس للساعة 7:30. ارجعوا وبعدها إن شاء الله نكمل. أبو عياد، نحن طبعا الكل اللي بده يطلع بريك يطلع. أنا بدي أشرح بس لعياد آخر نقطة شرحتها حتى ما تروح علينا الموضوع. تمام؟ نحن أخذنا بريك الآن، بس خلي عياد معانا في الزوم معانا. يا عياد صح؟ عياد معايا؟ أيوة كويس. نحن كنا نشرح بس يا عياد على نقطة الBMS. يمكن أنت كنت على موضوع الBMS وعلى الموضوع الخطر الموجود في الأسلاك والتمديدات. فكنا نقول إنه الBMS بيعطيك معلومات عن كيفية إدارة المنشأة والمباني والأفرع، وهذا مهم جدا. يعني التطور هذا مهم جدا يتم تركيبه في المباني كاملة، وهو نظام يتم التحكم به بالكامل في المنشآت، ويتم إدارته من خلال فريق عمل ويتم تدريبهم عليه. طبعا المصاعد، الكهرباء، التمديدات، كل شيء متعلق بالمبنى بيتم إدارته، حتى موضوع التمديدات الميكانيكية كاملة في داخل المبنى. بالإضافة عندنا موضوع قلنا بموضوع الآخر نقطة عشان تكون بس تستفيد منها، إنه مثلا التمديدات الكهربائية كيف نعرف إنه صار فيها خلل ولا ما فيها خلل. في عندنا حاجه اسمها بنمدد مع الاسلاك الكهربائيه حاجه اسمها الفايبر اوبتيك، يعني اسلاك فايبر. هذا اسلاك الفايبر لما تتمدد مع الاسلاك طبعا هي زي الشعره يعني خفيفه جدا وتكون من نفس المصنع بتيجي، فلما يكون في خلل في جزء معين من الكيبل او من يعني يصير في حراره او يصير في خلل او في تعري، على طول مباشر بيعطي تنبيه للبي ام اس انه ترى الموقع هذا فيه خلل، فروح ارجع فيه، فبيتم معالجه السلك بدون معالجه الكهرباء اذا كان في حراره زياده في خلل في عمر افتراضي. فهذا مثلا طبقناه في برج الساعه وهو موجود، يعني الان في برج الساعه موجود، فاي خلل ممكن يحصل مباشره مثلا حتى في الابراج الكبيره زي الفيصليه والمملكه هذه موجود من زمان. فاي خلل ممكن يحصل على طول مباشره بيتم التنبيه للبي ام اس انه ترى في خلل 1 2 3 قبل ما يحصل الحريق، قبل ما تحصل الكارثه، قبل ما يحصل الصعق الكهربائي. هذا اللي تكلمنا فيه يا عياد اخر المحاضره اللي طلعت منها، ان شاء الله تكون بس اخذت المعلومه جيدا وواضح عندك، صح؟ ممتاز. طيب ناخذ البريك على 7:30 نرجع ان شاء الله. طبعا احنا حنتابع المؤتمر منظمه العمل الدوليه تاع الاداره تاع اليوم العالمي للسلامه وكذا. طبعا انا مش حشرح كثير، خلاص حنفتح المؤتمر، وطبعا اللي حاب يحضر يحضره، ما حطالبك طبعا لا تسوي تقرير ولا تسوي شيء، بس عباره عن اليوم اثراء. اللي حاب يحضر عن المؤتمر بيركزوا كثير عن موضوع الكوفيد 19 والاصابات والعدوى والاجراءات الوقائيه اللي يجب اتخاذ فيها قرارات من ناحيه السلامه. نشوفكم على خير باذن الله الساعه 7:30.
Much better cooperation with public sector, with employers' national organizations, EPPs, public and private partnerships will be very efficient and will be crucial for access to information, for testing, for prevention. We cannot be successful if our answer does not involve the different stakeholders, the employers and business community. And in that sense, the value of ILO is incredible because of this tripartism. The work that we can do together with the workers' organizations, within the social dialogue, to go back better in a different scenario for health and safety. The disruptive nature of COVID-19 pandemic has also experienced change of the work at the workplace, working time, working place, and such essential concepts from a health and safety perspective. We need to face with them. Basically, we need to ask ourselves, what can we do better in the future? How we can work better together using our capacities in a more beneficial way? How we can cooperate better with governments and also employers and workers? What is the kind of incentives that workers need for a sustainable future? Therefore, also we need new attitudes, open mindset, and a culture of prevention. We are committed to that. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Joining us from the International Trade Union Confederation, the Deputy General Secretary, Owen Tudor. Over to you, Owen.
Thanks, Mummy. For workers, today is International Workers' Memorial Day. We want to save lives at work, not only workers, but everyone who can be affected, including customers, patients, and the public. And of course, we also want to prevent non-fatal injuries and illnesses and promote health and safety as a key part of recovery and resilience. Today, we remember and mourn the dead. According to ILO figures, somebody around the world dies because of their work every 12 seconds. 5 people every minute, 15 people while I speak to you, 300 people every hour. We should have a chapter on every screen to remind us that every one of those deaths is preventable if we do the right thing. Today, COVID-19 is the big killer. In the health sector alone, 2 workers die every hour because of the pandemic, and in countries like India, the death toll has spread out from the hospitals into workplaces and affects informal workers in particular. Even in the UK, workers with insecure contracts are twice as likely to suffer and die of COVID-19 than other workers. And women have been placed in harm's way more often, both at work and at home during the pandemic. So while the key demand we are making today is to make occupational health and safety an ILO fundamental right at work, as agreed at the ILO Centenary Conference 2 years ago, we also want COVID-19 recognised as an occupational disease, and we want progress on a biological hazards convention already delayed for 20 years. We want all those rights and protections to apply to everyone who works for a living, so they become universal and inalienable rights as part of a new social contract with worker safety nets at the heart of everything we do. That is our message, that is our commitment, that is our intention. Save lives at work.
Thank you, Owen. I want to take you to the World Health Organization studios in Geneva to welcome Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Dr. Tedros, over to you.
Dear Guy Ryder, Director General of the International Labour Organization, Excellencies, representatives of Ministries of Labour, businesses and workers, dear colleagues and friends. Nobody should die while doing their job. But in the past year, thousands of people in health, care and other industries have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the line of duty. Many more have died from other preventable occupational diseases and injuries. Today, I join you in paying tribute to all people who lost their lives as a result of their work. The WHO Constitution affirms that everybody has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, and that includes at work. The WHO Manifesto for a Healthy and Green Recovery from COVID-19 urges businesses to put in place initiatives for healthier and safer workplaces, which will not only protect workers, it will also increase resilience to public health threats. 2021 is the International Year of Health and Care Workers under the theme Protect, Invest Together. Now, more than ever, we need a global commitment to safe working environments for health and care workers, investments in their education and training, fair pay and dignified workplaces. Working together, we can bring this pandemic to an end and build a healthier, safer, and fairer world for all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization. I am just going to take a moment to say, attendees, I see you. More than 1,000 of you joining a Zoom meeting. Now this is what a Zoom event should look like. I see you in Algeria, in Nigeria, in the hospital in the Philippines. Thank you for greeting each other. As there are more than 1,000 of you, I don't think this event is long enough for you to say hello to everybody, but I am going to send you a warm greeting, a World Day for Safety and Health at Work. I appreciate every single one of you. All right. Now, that was an important thing to do. I have to bring it because today we're also launching a report, and that report is very important. So hello, Joaquin Pintado Nunes, and hello, Manal Azizi. I am going to ask you, Joaquin, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, what you do. You have an important job.
Thank you very much, Femi. So my name is Rakib Bintadouns, and I'm heading the branch of the ILO dealing with occupational safety and health. So you asked me why did we select the topic this year, being on the need to invest in resilient OSH systems. Well, I would say that last year the topic for Safe Day was already focused on COVID-19 and pandemics, and there would be no other option. Well, we know now that the pandemic is still with us, and we see that things are evolving at different speeds in countries, with some countries already quite advanced on vaccination, some other countries still not that far. And this means that it will probably take a while until we can think of COVID-19 as a conquered battle. So we cannot let our guards down. We also have to think of the longer-term effects of this pandemic, namely in terms of mental health. So over the last year, we heard, much about the need for strong and resilient occupational, resilient public health systems, which is of course correct. But it's also important to stress that we equally need sound occupational safety and health systems which are capable of looking into all components of work that may be affected by the current pandemic of COVID-19 and the very special circumstances that they bring to the world of work. So we should learn with this experience and understand that occupational safety and health is important in any context, independently of the toll of death and illness caused by SARS-CoV-2. Already before the pandemic, our estimates revealed that, and Owen already said this, that on average 5 people die every minute due to working conditions. So this year, the World Day for Safety and Health at Work is focused on 2 main ideas. First, that in order to prevent a catastrophe like the one caused by COVID-19, or to tackle other potential crises, other epidemics, major industrial accidents, climate change effects, or any other disruptive event, you need to rely on solid occupational safety and health systems, both at national and workplace level. So there is COVID-19, or to tackle other potential that, and Owen already said this, that on average 5 people die every minute due to working conditions. So this year, the World Day for Safety and Health at Work is focused on 2 main ideas. First, that in order to prevent a catastrophe like the one caused by COVID-19, or to tackle other potential crises, other epidemics, major industrial accidents, climate change effects, or any other disruptive event, you need to rely on solid occupational safety and health systems, both at national and workplace level. So there is no other option. And this requires investment, both financially and programmatically. The second idea of Safe Day this year and the report that you mentioned is that it's not enough to focus only on standalone parts of national safety and health systems, but you have to consider the system as a whole. And you have to know that not investing in one part of the system can lead to the collapse, to the system collapsing as a whole as well. So it's not enough to, for instance, modernize national legislation if you cannot rely on accurate data on rates of infection when it comes to COVID-19, or data on accidents and disease related to work in general. So this is also why the report for Safe Day this year explains the importance of the main elements of national systems for safety and health at work, stemming from legal, policy, and institutional frameworks to occupational health services, information and provision of training to employers and workers, social dialogue, data collection, and other elements of the system, to which my colleague Manal Azi will be referring throughout this session. Thank you.
Wow, it is so nice to see you. Thank you for being part of this program and organising the program as well. So you are doing double duty. First of all, I'm going to do this in baby steps. First of all, tell everybody who you are, what you do. Step 1.
Thank you so much, Femi. This is an honor. It warms my heart to see the number of participants. It goes to show how important this is and how it's affected the lives of everyone who works and people who don't work, and how the line between the community and workplace crisis is even more blurred today. So we have a huge responsibility. And today we have a number of messages that we're trying to get across. Obviously, occupational health suddenly became a frontline specialization all of a sudden. And it's important to say that you can't tackle and address a crisis and try to build an emergency response system while you're inside of the crisis. And what we've learned globally is countries that had already a good system in place with good legislation, with good enforcement, data collection, people that are trained. You don't, become an occupational physician in one day. You can't set up a health services system in one day. You can't put together a tripartite committee between workers and employers and governments discussing the importance of safety and health, investing in the different tools and methods that we need to be following to ensure prevention of accidents and diseases overnight. So today we are calling for investing in all these elements and leveraging this OSH system that we've talked about through our main Convention 155, through our Convention 161 on health services, through 187 that was a promotional framework to bring these elements forward and to invest in that national policy and invest in your people, in courses at university maybe, in different trainings that can be done. It's not all costly. This is what we want to say. None of us have been saved from this pandemic, and the efforts we do in the workplace are going to have the positive effects in the community and the other way around. And the last thing I want to say on that point really is that when you have a national emergency response plan, occupational safety and health needs to be integrated in that response plan and not become a parallel effort on the side, to be able to be efficient and to be able to answer to the needs that the world is facing today.
Now, I'm just thinking about the Safe Day report. We all bring our own experiences about how we are managing a global pandemic, how we are managing to work or maybe not work, the impact that has, lessons learned. Share them with us.
Right. Like I was saying, so many countries have stepped up. So we've seen immediately overnight policies have changed on teleworking, on working time, on paid leave. Policies change really quickly in order to organize these new work arrangements and to prevent other risks. Because what we've seen, we've heard the ILO DG, we've heard the WHO DG speaking. We've seen that the risk is not just exposure to contagion from a virus. As we changed work arrangements, as millions of people are working from home and others have lost their jobs, we're facing other risks. We're facing ergonomic risks. Can you ensure, Femi, where you're sitting today in Washington, that you have the ergonomic situation and workplace setup that will protect you from long-term harm or musculoskeletal disease? Can I ensure, as a mother of 3 kids, that I can struggle to raise my kids in my home and be able to answer to my job needs all throughout the day, all in one place, in a small apartment? And cases like this are coming out. And this is what we've learned, that people are struggling. They're struggling from isolation. They're struggling from too many things that they need to struggle as they continue to work. And people are just happy to even have a job. Coming here, we're just happy the ILO recognizes this, and we are one of the few lucky employees that have kept our jobs throughout this struggle and catastrophe that the world is facing. And we're here to try to help others do the same. And the report shows a number of examples across data collection, innovation, across technology, risk assessment, evaluation. The OSH community is listening to us. They have put all their efforts to stand up and stand forth and go to the front line, hand in hand with other public health services to answer to this crisis, as there is no line to contagion and a communicable disease such as this one. But we need to learn. Other crises may come. We don't want to talk about them, but we need to be ready.
We have to talk. Now we have to talk about them. We're not talking about that we're going to be in the same situation in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years time. I love that really direct question you asked. Me sitting here and our attendees sitting wherever they are in the world. Do we know we're sitting in the best, optimum, safe and healthy work conditions? That really made me think. I know it made the attendees think. I'm going to push on. Joking, I just want to ask you one last thing, because I am seeing attendees in Kenya, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, all over the world. I'm wondering about international cooperation, what impact that has as far as OSH is concerned.
Thank you, I think that's a quite interesting question. So we have seen, even before the pandemic, that there is a growing interest of the international community on occupational safety and health. One example of this is, for instance, the creation in 2019 of the Global Coalition for Safety and Health at Work, which is composed of government governments, employers and workers' organizations, and specialized institutions working in the area of occupational safety and health, and which intends really to bring to the forefront of political agendas the topic of occupational safety and health, but also to disseminate technical knowledge around the world to all countries, regions, and all sorts of organizations in terms of how to correctly address the different occupational hazards. We also have seen that even since the pandemic has started, that there is also growing interest from the multilateral partners, both in terms of assisting the ILO and I would say probably other UN agencies as well, to provide more assistance to those countries that are most in need. And we know that national health systems, especially when it comes to attending to the special needs brought by the pandemic, are in very let's say critical need for reinforcement. We have seen that many donors, for instance, have come forward to provide more resources for the ILO to be more present at country level when it comes to reinforcing safety and health at work. We also have seen, for example, and I think that this is a clear signal of the importance being given by countries in general to us, a growing number of ratifications of our core or standards. And for example, over the last 6 years, we saw member states ratifying, we have 10 new ratifications of our standards, and I think that this is quite positive in terms of, not only in terms of informing national law, but also in terms of putting national law into practice according to the ILOs, which are to the values that are the values that are defended by the ILO, which are very much based on tripartism and the idea of the continuous need to improve the safety and health culture at national and at global level.
All right, thank you so much, Joaquin. Thank you for that. We really appreciate you really kind of boiling down the Safe Day report and appreciate the time that you spent with us to do that. I'm going to move on because there has been a lot of support internationally for safe workplaces, healthy workplaces, because the pandemic focused us with a laser focus on what kind of environment we're all having to work in. I'm going to bring in two governments, two leaders, so that you can see there's political will there. Professor David is the Minister of Labour and Social Security in Turkey, and Martin Walsh is Secretary of Labour in the United States. We'll start with Martin Walsh.
Hello, I'm United States Labor Secretary Marty Walsh. I want to start by thanking the U.S. global partners for their commitment to keeping workers around the world safe on the job, especially during this pandemic. Thank you to the ILO for hosting today's World Day for Safety and Health at Work event. And thank you to everyone for coming together in a time of stress and uncertainty to work together on global solutions for workers' health and safety. In the United States, today is Workers' Memorial Day. This day means a great deal to me. I grew up working construction, and I was involved in the labor movement. I've known too many people who got injured and even lost their lives on the job. And I've seen the toll it takes on families. Those workers and their families are always in my heart. America got through this past year thanks to the dedication of frontline and essential workers. Nurses and doctors, home healthcare workers, grocery store clerks and delivery drivers, farm workers and meat packers, and so many more. Our nation learned all over again that we depend on working men and women for our health, for our safety, and for our communities. So I'm proud of the work we are leading in the U.S. and around the world to protect workers' lives and livelihoods. I'm proud of the work of the G20 OSH network to share best practices for safety and health in the workplace. I'm proud of the work done by this group to develop a strong, worker-centered statement on building back safer and healthier for this year's G20 Labor and Employment Ministers Declaration. The Biden-Harris administration supports the work of International Labor Organization to improve occupational safety and health. We also strongly support including safety and health in the ILO's framework of fundamental principles in the rights at work. We look forward to working with friends and partners to make these goals a reality. Day and every day, we remember and honor those we have lost, and we will not stop fighting to protect those who are living. Thank you for your partnership in this work.
Sayın Başkan, Sayın Bakanlar, İşçi ve İşveren Konfederasyonlarının değerli temsilcileri, değerli katılımcılar, hepinizi saygı, sevgi ve muhabbetle selamlıyorum. 28 Nisan Dünya İş Sağlığı ve Güvenliği Günü vesilesiyle sizlerle birlikte olmaktan mutluluk duyuyorum. Çalışanlarımızın, işverenlerimizin ve tüm çalışma dünyasının Dünya İş Sağlığı ve Güvenliği Günü'nü kutluyorum. Değerli katılımcılar, iş sağlığı ve güvenliği sadece çalışanları değil, toplumun tamamını ilgilendiren uluslararası düzeyde bir önceliktir. Biz bu çalışmalarımızı bu öncelik doğrultusunda uluslararası işbirlikleriyle güçlendirmeyi sürdürüyoruz. 2015 yılında ülkemizin dönem başkanlığında kurulan G20 İş Sağlığı ve Güvenliği Uzmanları ağının eş başkanlığını yürütmeye devam ediyoruz. Aynı zamanda pandemiyle değişen çalışma hayatı ve iş sağlığı ve güvenliği temalı ağın ilk kampanyasına da liderlik ediyoruz. Kampanya kapsamında İLO ile işbirliği içerisinde gerçekleştirdiğimiz anketin sonuçları İLO'nun Dünya İş Sağlığı ve Güvenliği Gücü raporunda yer aldı. Ayrıca kurulmasına yine öncülük ederek sekreteriyasını yürüttüğümüz İslam İşbirliği Teşkilatı İş Sağlığı ve Güvenliği ağındaki çalışmalarımızı da devam ettiriyoruz. Bu yıl Türk İşbirliği ve Koordinasyon Ajansı'nın katkılarıyla Moritanya'da yaklaşık 500 bin dolarlık yatırımla bir iş hijyeni laboratuvarı kuruyoruz. Önümüzdeki 2 yıl boyunca ağa üye ülkelere 20 farklı konuda eğitimler gerçekleştirmeyi planlamış bulunuyoruz. Değerli katılımcılar, COVID-19 salgını ile birlikte gerçekten ender görülen olağan dışı bir dönemden geçiyoruz. Türkiye olarak bu süreci en az zararla atlatmak için sağlıktan eğitime, istihdamdan sosyal yardımlara kadar kapsamlı tedbirler aldık ve almaya devam ediyoruz. Bu süreçte sivil toplum kuruluşlarımızla, sendika konfederasyonlarımızla, iş dünyamızla çeşitli ortak platformlarda değerlendirmelerde bulunduk. Salgınla beraber hastalığın iş yerlerinde yayılmasını önlemek için sahada hizmet veren 45 bin üzerinde iş sağlığı ve güvenlik profesyonelimizi seferber ettik. Bulaş riskleri yüksek sektörler başta olmak üzere 24 farklı sektör ve çalışma alanına özgü çalışmaları içeren rehberler, videolar, kontrol listelerini tüm tarafların faydalanması için hazırlamış bulunuyoruz. Yayınladığımız rehberler İLO Türkiye ofisi tarafından İngilizce, Arapçaya çevrilerek uluslararası arenada kullanıma sunulmuş bulunuyor.
And you do not understand what I'm saying. Have a look at the little globe at the bottom of your screen. We have interpretation in French and in Spanish as well. Thank you for joining. I want to give you an example of how one country is dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. And for that, we go to Madagascar. Ms. Giselle Rama is Minister of Labour for Employment, Social Services and Social Law. And then we'll also be hearing from Mr. Joseph Rasafimanatosa. Thank you so much. Over to you, Madam Minister, first of all. Give us a sense of dealing and how you're dealing with COVID-19.
Merci. Merci, Madame, de pouvoir vous donner la parole. Monsieur le Directeur Général du Fonds international du travail, Mesdames et Messieurs les panélistes des différents pays ici présents, dans cette table ronde virtuelle, et Mesdames et Messieurs les groupements des travailleurs et des employeurs, je suis très honorée de pouvoir participer à cette table ronde virtuelle organisée dans le cadre de la célébration de la Journée internationale de la sécurité et santé au travail, surtout en ce moment difficile de pandémie de Covid-19 qui affecte le monde du travail et plus particulièrement mon pays n'est pas en reste. Et justement, pas de secours.
A lot of weight with that responsible title.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you.
Selçuk Yasser, nice to see you. Introduce yourself to our audience of more than 1,000 people around the world.
Hi Femi, hi everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I'm Selçuk Yasser. I'm head of International Collaboration Unit of the Directorate General of Occupational Safety and Health in Turkey. I represent both Turkey OSH Experts Network. Thank you.
Fantastic. Chris, hello. Welcome. Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Hello, Femi. Good afternoon. And good afternoon to all of you, dear friends and colleagues. I'm Chris de Meester from the Federation of Enterprises in Belgium, dealing with everything that is health and safety or well-being related, and also representing the international business community, the international organization of employers in this discussion.
Nice to have you. Hello, Maureen. Maureen Onia. Nice to see you. Welcome. Make yourself visible and join our conversation. Introduce yourself to our international audience.
Hello, Femi. You have to allow me to start my video. Anyway.
Well, you can keep talking while you start the video, then the two things will happen simultaneously.
My name is Maureen Onya Ikwazi, Head of Occupational Health and Safety for Nigeria Labour Conference. Thank you. Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Nice to see all of you. I'm so looking forward to this conversation because every single one of us knows what it is now like to live in a global pandemic. You're all responsible for workers. You're all responsible for policy. So hearing where the way forward is and how to have resilience in all of your different fields is going to be fascinating. Jeanette, where do you want to start? Where do you want to take us? How's your year been for health and safety?
So the United States has had the same year that most other countries have had. In particular, for me, with the mining industry, miners in the United States are considered essential employees. And so the mining industry, while suffering some economic setbacks, did not suffer as much as many other industries in the United States, at only 10% of a decrease. As you know, in mining, we produce the energy that runs hospitals and homes, and we produce the materials that make medical devices and other essential items for living. And so a 10% decrease in production is not that great for an industry here in the United States. And in contrast to that, the fatality rate of miners rose in 2020. For example, in 2019, the fatality rate for American miners was less than 1%. And in 2020, that rose to 1.2%. And so there's only one reason this can be, and that's related to work-related stress on the job and miners in an environment where safety precautions have been put to the side in order to maintain production levels with a smaller staff, because the American miner, just like any other worker, was catching COVID just like at the same rate of any other American worker. I think when you look at the stress-related, the job-related stress in the mining industry and the fatality rate, we do not expect that to go down in 2021. And as an example, we are at a decade-time high this year of fatalities at this point in the year in the mining industry.
Do you mind if I ask you what do you do about that? Because I've seen this in other industries, for instance, the meat production industry. People were going to work when a lot of people were sheltering inside, and they were in more danger than any other kind of worker who didn't have to go into work. So this is really disturbing. Now, what do we do with this moment? How do we make health and safety a priority?
So for us, in the United States, we have a new administration, a new president, who believes in science and takes the word of the Center for Disease Control very seriously. And with this, there are two agencies within the federal government that control worker health and safety. One is the Mine Safety Health Administration, which is guided by its own laws and its own congressional action. And then there's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is the entire other sector, every other sector. Each one of us, each agency has to pass what we call an emergency temporary standard, which is a regulation that we pass to address COVID. OSHA, which is the other agency, is in the process of passing their gigantic piece of emergency legislation, emergency rules and regulations, not legislation. And MSHA has just completed theirs and will submit that to the Secretary of Labor today. And that will cover very specific areas of a mine, right? And
I'm going to share the conversation. Just finish your sentence, and I'm going to share the conversation with your co-panelists. Just finish your sentence, because it means that it's very relevant that today is the day that is going to be submitted. Finish your thought very briefly, Jeanette, because I need to move on.
Sure. That will dovetail with and complement the efforts that we have to control dust that cause black lung disease in miners and silicosis in miners. Because COVID attacks the lungs, we are particularly focused on those parts of the mine and that part of the industry where exposure to respirable dust is at the highest level.
Thank you. I want to bring in Silas here, because you have a list of we need to do this, this, and this. It's a checklist for what we need to do now that we're in a global pandemic and how we get out of the global pandemic. Share some of those thoughts with us, Silas.
Thank you, Fanny. Well, I think like all other countries, we had quite an eventful year, and I think for us in Singapore, the main approach that we have taken is what we call, in local term, whole of government approach. Very similar to what Nell earlier mentioned about OSH being integrated into the entire response plan with respect to tackling this COVID. So for us, it is not just the Ministry of Manpower, it is not just OSH being involved in the front line of this COVID pandemic, but it is bringing the entire army of all the government bodies from health, manpower, national development, transport. Everybody is have to come into play to combat this pandemic together. So I was just reflecting about what Jeanette earlier mentioned about that OSHA passing the law. So for us, we also had to pass a law. So the thankful thing, I think, for Singapore is we could do it very quickly, and because of the urgency, Singapore is a very small island country, and we rely on a lot of international trade and people coming into the country. So very quickly, the various agencies, including the Manpower Ministry, the Health Ministry, we all work together with our lawyers, and we could quickly come up with a piece of law and had it sailed through, passed through Parliament, which enacted it in double quick time. I think this was done in recognition of the urgency of the pandemic, and that was, I think, something that we could quickly move in a very agile manner, and that helped us in the response.
Can I ask you to be candid, because there are many countries that have laws, and there's laws and there's implementation. And sometimes when it is politically expedient, those laws, particularly when it relates to workers, are not adhered to. And there's a huge conversation that we could have. We have to have another Zoom meeting to have that conversation.
يعني مثل ما تشارك في الحديث عن متطلبات السلامة في المنشآت على مستوى منظمة العمل الدولية، هناك اختلافات كبيرة جدا يتم البحث عنها وتوجيه سرعة في اتخاذ القرار.
Sure, the impact was huge because immediately after the law, even as we were gearing up for the law, the respective agencies, we were mounting up and appointing enforcement officers to quickly go down to the ground. So I'm responsible for the team, what we call safe management measures, enforcing all the safe management measures. I was responsible for the workplace. There was a separate agency like the Maritime Authority. They're responsible for those dealing with the port, the ships coming in and out. We have the construction authority dealing with all the work sites. So different parts of the government all stepped in and mounted a integrated response to help combat, because really this virus has no respect of boundaries. It doesn't care whether you're a housewife or you're a blue collar worker, white collar worker, IT worker. It doesn't care. And I think and because of that, we had to recognize that we had to mount all this a very comprehensive set of measures that covers all aspects of our society, and that even includes even in cinemas when it was closed, or rather when it was eventually reopened. The cinemas were there was a set of strict laws, what they were told, how many people they can admit, and what is the protocol to adhere to. So all this were in a way carefully orchestrated throughout the whole government.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to go to Maria, because Portugal now has leadership of the EU, so I'm just really intrigued by what the EU is doing regarding workers' safety during this global pandemic. Can you enlighten us, please, Maria?
Yes. Unfortunately, we are not alone. It is a huge problem for all of us. So, under the umbrella of European Union, we have a strategy, and the European Union have a document they built with all member states to take care, to harmonize the rules between the member states about the health and safety at work. So we built that together, and then we built our own national strategy. So it is really important to be together on this, and it is really important to have a regional strategy for this. So we take a focus on this important issue, safety at work and healthy, to have a dignified work. It is really important for the European Union, and also for Portugal, also for all of us. So for economy, for social cohesion, for everything we have in our society, our style of life. So it is really a good methodology to work together, to have a document and to build together with the member states to focus on this important issue.
Maria, I am wondering, as a former member of the EU, that it is quite difficult for many countries to work together, or does that make it easier when everybody is experiencing the same pandemic to come together and make good health and safety policy? Was it challenging or easy?
It is a challenge, no doubt, but we have been doing a path. We are improving. We have several agencies in Europe, EU, to build this strategy and to make it easy, like the SLIC, like the OSHA agency, like the ENETOSH. We have several instruments to deal with it, and now I'm to enforce the strategy, like ILA, the new the new European authority, labor authority. So it is a lot of instruments the member states are building under the EU to enforce and to take to can harmonize between member states this strategy and to improve the work conditions for all workers in Europe. So it is not easy. It is a challenge, but we have space to discuss, to meet and to discuss and to build to improve the better.
Thank you, Maria, for bringing us that view from the EU. I am just reminding myself of the subtitle for our event: Anticipate, Prepare, and Respond to Crises. I know that there is a bilateral conversation going on in the chat with 1,000 people. I love that conversation. I'm watching your conversation, listening to this conversation. I know you're doing both. In the chat, also, take this on, help each other, anticipate, prepare, respond to crises, not even just this one, future ones. Selçuk, let me just bring you in here, because Turkey is thinking about how do we mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Share those thoughts with us. Tell us what Turkey is doing.
Thank you, Femi. Actually, Turkey, we ratified the ILO Convention 187, and this describes the elements of occupational safety and health system. Therefore, our response to COVID was overlapping with the ILO Convention 187, and it was timely, it was comprehensive, and it was robust as well. So we considered new and emerging risk measures to be taken, health surveillance, safe return to work, classification of sectors, workplaces, and job tests, and vulnerable groups, of course, and we provided strong guidance on all of these issues. Considering the high-risk profile in terms of COVID-19 spread, we prepared informative documents for the prioritized sectors and employees, such as bakery production, supermarkets, pharmacy, and cargo transportation staff. Also, in cooperation with ILO office in Turkey, we translated this guideline to Arabic for migrant workers. We launched a COVID-19 online platform to make all this useful information and guidance easy to access for all parties. And through this platform, current needs and frequently asked questions were also provided. The healthcare workers, they become our heroes during the pandemic. A mental health support application was developed to provide psychological support to them. It's a mobile application which they can receive support 24/7 from specialist physicians via video call. We follow the three-step methodology for collaboration with stakeholders. First, we established an advisory board consisting of academics from the various disciplines. Then we shared our studies with all our stakeholders. Finally, we provided technical information on OSH by taking into consideration the demands received from public institutions and organizations. Continuity and sustainability of OSH services during quarantine and restriction was one of our priorities. We focused on not only the market surveillance and inspection activities of personal protective equipment, but also expanding the scope of notified bodies, diversifying the test infrastructure, informing manufacturers, and most importantly, ensure that the products to be offered to healthcare workers are safe.
Selçuk, if I may, because of course you want to highlight everything that you're doing in Turkey regarding workers' safety and health. What has worked the best? Because you are listing, but what are you proudest of?
Actually, I can say that we provided strong guidance to the employers, to the employees, to the all parties. This COVID-19 platform is rich of information. There are lots of information. And also, you know that many international events were cancelled due to pandemic. So we started preparing a bulletin in order to share the global challenges, the global development on occupational safety and health related with COVID-19 especially. So with this monthly bulletin, we inform people, we take action. So also we work very close with the stakeholders, with social partners. So I can say that this is the strongest point of Turkey's COVID-19 response.
And the other one that leapt out of me, and I think this is true of every country, everywhere, is translating guidelines into language that everybody can understand. So that to me was like, oh, good job, love that, because that's just about communication. It's like, how do you effectively communicate? And that was effective communication right there. Chris, I'm very aware that we've been talking a lot about workers. In fact, for over an hour about workers, but what about employers? Bring us that perspective, please.
Yeah, thank you. So for employers, of course, the big challenge was, first of all, trying to make sure that there was some business continuity possible. In most cases, it was limited to what was called essential sectors or essential activities, but later on, stepwise, also other kinds of activities were made possible again. But of course, the challenge was, how can we do that at maximum safety? Knowing, of course, the limits in dealing with the virus, so how to do that? And there, I think I have a success story to share, because what we actually did is, it's more than just translating the language, it is translating the basic principles, social distancing, ventilation, hygiene, action in case of illness or symptoms, translating those principles into tangible and practical measures. And that is what we did. And how we did it is jointly. We did it jointly as social partners, so not just the employers, but together with the workers. And we got the confidence, we got the green light and the trust of our Minister of Work to develop those guidance, those practical guidance tools for the businesses in order to ensure their continuity. And that was essential, because we've given the people something tangible, not just letters, not just words on paper, but with very clear instructions, practical measures, often using the creativity of individual workers that came up with great ideas. That is the success story. And later on, we continued to be on the same line as social partners when it came to governments asking us, should we prioritize some worker groups for vaccination? How can we impose testing? How should we test? We stayed on the same line. We said, no, do not prioritize. We don't want to fight. How can I say your job is not essential? I will give a vaccine to that worker first. That is creating a fight among workers, and that's not helpful. So we urge them to speed up vaccination for everyone, to make testing available for everyone without targeting specific groups. Where did we fail, or where did we do not so good? That is in creating synergy between public health and workplace health. We still have the feeling, and it's not just in my country, in Belgium, but throughout the world, that the people in charge of public health are not aware or not willing to be aware of the powers and the structures that we have at work. We have the prevention principles, we have long-standing experience with prevention and prevention measures, we have consultation, we have inspection tools, but none of that was used at the benefit of the society as a whole. For the society as a whole, for the public domain, the principles remain the principles. They say these are the measures, but they don't translate them into something tangible, in something concrete. So that is, in short, my story. And what we have developed was later, with the help of the International Organization of Employers, developed to a more international version, and that was later adopted in Russian language, Spanish, Serbo-Croatian, Georgian, and now also Armenian. So quite a success story.
Thank you for sharing that with us, the employer's perspective. Going to go back to the worker's perspective. Maureen, would you unmute yourself and would you make your camera live so that we can see you? Maureen, let me just remind you, as Head of Occupational Health and Safety, the Nigeria Labour Congress, so it is good to have her and her perspective in the conversation. Go ahead, Maureen. I know I was following what was happening in Nigeria. Very challenging time to stay safe and healthy anywhere, let alone at work. What were your challenges?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm sorry the video is not for reasons you cannot allow me to show my video. However, the challenges at work are very enormous because the COVID-19 came and there were lockdowns everywhere. Many people were not able to go to work. Markets were closed. Schools were closed. Then, okay, can you see me now?
Yes, keep going, Maureen. This is not necessarily the most flattering angle, but I do love the African print. Keep going, keep talking. Maureen, keep talking.
The major challenges we faced was workers' inability to go out. You know, most workers are in the informal sector. These are people who depend on their daily.
طبعا مين بيعرف هنا في إحصائية ذكروها كم عدد الوفيات تحدث في اليوم على مستوى العالم تقريبا نتيجة الحوادث؟ مين بيتوقع كم؟ كم حادث تقريبا يقع يعني على مستوى العالم بشكل يومي؟ حادث يعني وفيات تحدث بشكل يومي تقريبا، يعني من كم ذكر؟ عدد الحوادث والإصابات التي تحدث، أو خلينا نقول الوفيات التي تحدث في العالم يوميا. كم عدد الوفيات نتيجة حوادث العمل؟ أو الحوادث داخل بيت العمل بشكل يومي. واضح الآن؟ واضح الآن؟ واضح الآن؟ ألو؟ تمام. هنتكلم عن نتوقع كم إحصائية الوفيات التي تحدث بسبب العمل خلال مثلا اليوم واحد، كم تقريبا؟ يعني لاحظوا على مستوى العالم حادث العمل، يعني مثل حادث صار مثلا إصابة، سقوط من مرتفع، حفريات، أماكن مثلا خطرة ميكانيكية، في المختبرات انسكاب مواد كيميائية على شخص مثلا أو على أحد العاملين لا قدر الله مثلا. كم تتوقعون مثلا رقم تقريبي لحالات الوفاة؟ طيب تخيلوا معايا إنه عدد الوفيات كل دقيقة كمتوسط 5 وفيات كل دقيقة. يعني كل الآن صرنا كم دقيقة؟ يعني ندخل نحسبها مثلا صرنا ساعة. كل دقيقة تخيلوا توفى شخص، يتوفي 5 أشخاص، عفوا 5 أفراد بتوفوا. تمام؟ وهذه الإحصائية متوسطة طبعا على مستوى العالم، حوادث بسبب المهنة المسجلة. طيب مين بيتوقع أيضا إنه مين أكثر الوفاة، من البنات ولا الشباب، أو الرجال ولا النساء؟ مين يتوقع؟ أكثر وفئات نتيجة الحوادث. شكلكم مش معايا اليوم. طبعا الحوادث طبعا تحصل أكثر للرجال طبعا، وعدد الوفيات الرجال أكثر. ليش؟ لأن النساء عادة حسب الإحصائيات أكثر حرصا من الرجال بالعمل، وأيضا النساء يمنع حسب قانون العمل الدولي والمنظمات الدولية والمحلية تمنع العمل للنساء في الأماكن الخطرة، يعني زي المناجم وزي الأعمال الإنشائية الصعبة وزي المصانع الخطرة. تمام، تمنع المرأة أنها تعمل بها للحفاظ على سلامتها. وأيضا الأماكن الخطرة بيقللوا من تواجد المرأة فيها لأنها بتشكل خطر تحتاج إلى بنية قوية إلى آخره. تمام، فهذا بالنسبة للإحصائيات. يعني نكمل مؤتمر يوم السلامة العالمي لهذه السنة.
And to feed. So workers were hungry. There were starvation. People now said, okay, instead of staying at home to be killed by hunger, why not go out all day and make monies for themselves and their families and let COVID kill them? That was that kind of situation. There were so many workers at home. There were so many domestic violence going on at home because couples were forced to stay together. In fact, incest increased in Nigeria because of the lockdown.
So, Maureen, can I ask you, because I've seen that situation in Nigeria. I saw that situation with migrant workers in India where everything just stopped and there was a humanitarian crisis as well as a health crisis. Now, being more resilient, what does that mean, knowing that happened? Because we can learn lessons from that. Now,
the lessons to learn from that is that our government needs to be prepared with social security issues for Nigerian workers, because those humanitarian crises happened because there were no social security for Nigerian workers, no palliatives of whatsoever for Nigerian workers. So people were scrambling to be able to feed, and that is why people have lost their jobs. Now, what we are trying to do is to engage the employers, engage the government to ensure that people are returned to the job. There is also serious issues with awareness. A lot of people have problems assessing the awareness of what is actually going on. Now, people are not ready. Nigeria is not ready with the type of form of work that is happening now. Working from home, not many people coming to work. We are not ready for that. So these are part of the challenges. We conducted some interviews among our workers to find out exactly what happened to them during this period, and they have gory tales to tell. So for us, we think that we will continue to engage the government to come together as social partners to see if we can establish a way forward, especially to build the resilience of systems as we have talked about today, so that we can ensure that workers have their benefits of occupational rights at work.
All right. So, Panis, I want to get one last piece of great advice from you, but I'm only allowing you to do it in a sentence, okay? Only in a sentence. So, Maureen, as your camera is working, we see you. Yeah. I'm going to get you to start, because what we wanted to learn from this is how do you respond to a crisis, prepare for future crises. Your advice is what? In a sentence, Maureen.
Is a call from all trade unions all over the world that occupational health and safety should be made a core convention of the ILO, so that employers and workers, employers and the government should be held accountable in what is happening at the workplace.
All right, thank you. Said with vigor. Chris.
Yeah. Be open about the figures and collaborate. Use the wisdom of the crowds to come up with the best possible solutions.
Selçuk.
I'm hopeful that everyone will come occupational safety and health is, and we bring those values into the future.
You certainly helped us do that, Maria.
Education, young generation for have work safe and healthy, and work together. That social dialogue is really important, and bring together for the companies, for the workers and employees, work together for the future implement of OSHA entirely in the work environment is really important. Thank you.
Silas.
Let's not waste the crisis. Let us lock in the COVID gains.
Jeanette.
I agree with Chris 100%. Employers are the key, especially now moving forward, to vaccinate the public. I think that there's much work to be done, coordination with employers around vaccination efforts and legitimization efforts and trust in the vaccine.
Thank you, Pan. I appreciate you. Thank you, attendees. You're fantastic. So much action going on in the chat. Love that. To close our World Day for Health and Safety, brought to you by the ILO, we have Vera Paquette, Director of Governance at the ILO. Vera, over to you.
Thank you, Femi, and it's my honor to try to wrap up what we've been following with so interesting the panelists, but also the words of the global event. First of all, I wish to thank the distinguished speaker for their valuable time and insights. This has been a fruitful and timely discussion as the world of work continues to feel the strong impact of the ongoing COVID crisis. We have seen the devastating effects of the pandemic on human life, and I think Owen has mentioned.
مقترح إذا بتفضلوا يوم الجمعة والسبت لو صار البرنامج من الساعة 3 للساعة 7 جيد، ولا نبقى على هذا الموعد يوم الجمعة والسبت من 3 لل7 عشان الموضوع ويك إند والكل بيطلع بالمساء؟ رأيكم؟ يعني لو خلينا يوم كل جمعة وسبت فقط من 3 لل7، إيش رأيكم يعني كمقترح؟ وشايفين كيف الحضور يمكن صعب شوية. لو خلينا من 3 ل7 إيش رأيكم؟ مقترح ممتاز. يوم جمعة وسبت فقط صح؟ الأيام الباقية أعتقد الدوامات صعب جدا يكون الساعة 3. مبارك يا مبارك. مبارك معايا؟ مبارك مبارك فاتح الجهاز وسايبه يا مبارك. طيب خلينا نحن ندرس الموضوع، نرسل في الجروب بعد المحاضرة ونشوف إنه إذا في غالبية أوكي نبدأ إن شاء الله فيها من الأسبوع القادم بإذن الله تعالى. إذا يعني كانت الغالبية أوكي واتفقنا يصير يوم كل جمعة وسبت من الساعة 3 ل7 حتى يبقى فترة المساء يعني على الأقل بدل ما يكون من 6 يكون من 3 4 5 6 7 للساعة 7. يكون ممتاز جدا. إن شاء الله بيكون غطى كافة الملاحظات. نكمل.
About the devastating what we are also suffering, about losing lives, employment, working conditions, and business activity. These effects fell across the globe. No region are being spared. All regions and countries, but all workers and enterprises are being affected. We have also seen that occupational health, together with public health, measures play a fundamental role in preventing and mitigating contagion in workplaces. Safety and health at work is also important to address all occupational risks to which workers are exposed during the pandemic, specifically psychology, risk arising out of change into working arrangements. And Maureen,
كان انضم معنا عياد كان في مقترح انه نخلي يوم الجمعة والسبت فقط يكون المحاضرات من الساعة 3 لل7. فايش رايك اذا موافق من الرأي يوم جمعة وسبت فقط؟ ناخذ الآراء بس. يكون يوم جمعة وسبت من 3 ل7 بدل من 6 ل10 كونه شايفين الحضور تعبان جدا. طيب ممتاز. اوكي مبارك بيشاركنا ايضا ومبارك ايضا هذا موجود معنا الان. طيب هذا 3 من 10. نشوف الباقيين ان شاء الله اذا انضموا معنا اليوم او نسالهم عن طريق المجموعه لاحقا ان شاء الله. نتفق ونكون نبدا فيه من الاسبوع القادم اذا اتفقنا ان شاء الله. نكمل.
as mentioned of them, working from home is not something that we are used to. Today's session has confirmed that strong occupation and safety and health systems at national, sectoral, and workplace level are indispensable to continue to address COVID-19 effectively. To prepare for recovery and to address future crises we may face, and to protect our young generation, as Manuel had said. We have seen the importance of good OSH policies and programs at national and enterprise level, based on social dialogue, for keeping workers safe and healthy. We have seen that international labor conventions, labor standards, namely 155th and 187, provide a solid reference for the development and adaptation of national laws and policies to address the safety and health challenge of COVID-19. We have also seen that our investing in OSH is relevant for advancing decent work, protect life and integrity, business continuity and resilience. But we must include and we must think about those special measures targeting the most vulnerable, those who are in the informal sector, in the informal economy, which don't have sometimes the protection they need. We have heard throughout the session how different governments, employers and workers have tackled the pandemic, including through collaborative approach and innovative use of technology to keep workplace safe. Finally, we see that there is a renewed commitment towards occupational safety and health, and allow me to reiterate that this is just the beginning of an important conversation and movement towards stronger and more resilient solutions to advance a safety culture. This is the central message of the World Day for Safety and Health at Work, the need to recognize the importance of occupational safety and health for preventing and managing crises, which requires a global and national collective effort to invest on occupational safety and health infrastructures. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us, and I wish you the rest of a good day and safe day. Thank you.
طيب يعني حضرنا تقريبا بحدود الساعة عن موضوع أقل من ساعة شوية بموضوع اليوم العالمي للسلامة والصحة المهنية.
يعني مش من المنطق إنه الكل ما يعرف. إن جواب كده على السريع. مين بيعرف أي يوم السلامة العالمي؟ أي يوم بالسنة؟ أعطونا التاريخ، ارسلوا لنا إياه يلا. تاريخ يوم السلامة العالمي، ارسلوا لنا التاريخ. مش معقول إنه نحن الآن صلنا حدود الساعة نسمع عن مؤتمر السلامة هذه السنة ومش عارفين. أيوة، في أي يوم؟ تاخذ الآن دبلوم أمن وسلامة، المفروض تعرفوا كل شيء ما يتعلق بالسلامة. ممتاز، ممتاز جدا. 28 ممتاز جدا، ممتاز. 28 28 إبريل. اللي هو ما يسمى بيوم السلامة العالمي، وهو بيسموه عادة يوم السلامة الصحة المهنية والسلام العالمي، وهو أحد أيام تحتفل فيه طبعا منظمة العمل الدولية والأمم المتحدة، ويوضع له شعار وموضوع كل سنة، وهو المواضيع المهمة التي يجب تفعيلها في إدارات الأمن والسلامة. و يتم عقد عادة البرامج قبل كوفيد 19 في دول معينة، ومن خلال هذا اليوم طبعا بيتم تفعيل مثلا موضوع معين ما يتعلق بالسلامة، مثل ضغط العمل، مثل الوقاية من الاستعداد لمواجهة حالات الطوارئ، مثل مثلا خلينا نسميه مثلا المواد الكيميائية وسلامتها. يعني يستخدموا، يعني مثلا 2014 كان بيتكلم عن المواد الكيميائية، مثلا في 2018 في 2012 كان يتكلم عن أداة تحسين السلامة في بيئة العمل. مثلا في مثلا في اليوم العالمي مثل السلامة في 2016 كان يتكلم عن ضغوط العمل، ضغوط أماكن العمل، الستريس. تمام. في عام 2020 مين يتوقع ايش كانت؟ يلا توقعوا ايش كان يوم العالمي للسلامة؟ عن ايش يتكلم 2020؟ عن جائحة كورونا أكيد، يعني حيتكلم عن كوفيد 19. تمام. السنة هذه كان يتكلم عن توقع الأزمات والاستعداد لمواجهتها. يعني كونه أزمة صارت لأزمة كوفيد 19، أغلب الشركات والجهات والمنظمات ما كانت متوقعة أو متوقع الأزمة، أزمة كوفيد 19. نعم، هم أيضا إنشاء لجان. نعم، جميل جدا. و كوفيد 19 لازم الكل يتعلم، حتى الأفراد في المنشآت والشركات، نعم، الحفاظ على سلامة الموظفين، يتعلموا إنه دائما توقع أي أزمة تحصل وتستعد لها وكيف تواجهها أي أزمة. يعني توقع أسوأ سيناريو، لازم ما توقع أسوأ سيناريو ممكن يحصل، وحطه أمام الواقع الآن أمامك، قول هذا حصل، كيف تتعامل معه حتى ما يجي هذا، حتى لو جاك هذه الأزمة تعرف تضع حلول لها. تمام. فهذه كانت من ضمن أيام العمل، اليوم العالمي للسلامة، وهو مهم جدا تفعيله في بيئة العمل، وهو أحد الأيام العالمية، ومشاركة
الكادر والعمل عليه. ونحن كان أعمالنا كلها وقائية، تمام، أعمالنا كلها إيش؟ وقائية. طيب في أحد عنده أي سؤال استفسار عن اليوم؟ ما هنطول عليكم كثيرا، نحن حندرس موضوع التعديل اللي هو من 3 ل7، وبعد ذلك إن شاء الله بناء على المتطلبات والأمور الحالية ممكن نحن إيش نضع مثلا حلول نعم، يكون هناك استعداد أوتوبيك، حالات الأوتوبيك. نعم أوتوبيك نعم. طيب ما في مشكلة. تحتاج نتكلم عن الموضوع هذا ولا يكون هذا تتكلم على مستوى المنظمات ولا الجهات؟ نعم. طبعا هو الأوت التفشي أو الأوبئة طبعا موضوع حساس جدا، والمفترض يكون في دراسات الآن من المنظمات تعمل حاجة اسمها مباني صحية، أو خلينا نقول مباني صحية. المباني الصحية إنه يصير جزء من تأسيس المبنى يكون له تجهيزات وأنظمة تقي من العدوى. تمام، فهمت علي؟ يعني هذه المفترض الأصل. الآن لو نبغى نجي التأسيس المفروض الآن في الفترة القادمة مفترض يعني يجوا مثلا على متطلبات الأبنية يضيفوا متطلب رئيسي اللي هو الفلتريشن والتهوية الصحيحة ومنع التلوث داخل المباني، ويصير جزء من المبنى منع التفشي للأوبئة، جزء من التأسيس، بالإضافة طبعا للتوعية. ومن التوعية هذا شيء رئيسي، لكن الآن المفترض بتكون كأبنية مباني كل جزء من التجهيز. على سبيل المثال بدل ما أنا الآن بستهلك موضوع قياس الحرارة على كل بوابة أحط أمن وقيسه، لا، بصير مثلا على الباب نفسه في سنسورز للتمبريتشر، في حالة إنه دخل الشخص على طول يقيسه اوتوماتيكلي، وإذا كان في حرارة مباشر يعطي إنذار، يعني بدون يكون هذا نفس التأسيس في المبنى. الأجهزة التأسيسية متطلب رئيسي للمباني. نفس الشيء مثلا نتكلم مثلا داخل مستشفى، داخل مدرسة، داخل جامعة. وهذا اقترحناه، سوينا مقترح ورفعناه بالذات للمنشآت التعليمية، كل المدارس داخله رفعنا مقترح إنه يكون في دراسة عن الموضوع هذا، لأنه كون الطلبة وأكثر مكان ممكن يعتبر انتشار العدوى اللي هو الأماكن في أطفال وكذا. فهذه أمور طبعا مهمة، وموضوع يستحق الاهتمام به، لأنها فعلا أزمة كورونا يعني أوقفت كثير من المؤسسات والجهات، وتوابعها ضخمة جدا، وتكاليفها حتى الآن لا يمكن توقعها، وخسائرها لا يمكن توقعها حتى الآن. تمام، يعني كلها الخسائر اللي صارت. شوفوا الإجراءات الوقائية، كم درجة حرارة، كم قياس، كم شركة سكرت، كم تباعد، كم ملصقات، كم لقاح، كم مراكز لقاح، كم مراكز فحص، كم مستندات الفحص عند السفر. شو كمية خيالية يمكن، يعني بالنسبة كم إبرة، كم عبوة، كم كادر طبي، كم بشكل ضخم جدا، يعني مكلف. فهذه المفترض الأزمة تكون درس للجميع بالتعامل معها بالشكل الحذر، لحسن لا تحصل أي أزمة أخرى مثل الكوفيد 19. تمام. والمفروض يعني من خلال كوفيد 19 نتعلم أيضا إنه حتى العدوى البسيطة إنه نقي نفسنا منها حتى نقلل القلق في المستقبل، ونزيد الأرباح على نرجع الأرباح أو خلينا نقول الخسائر اللي خسرناها السنوات الماضية أو السنة هذه واللي قبلها تصير مردودة لنا في السنوات القادمة في حالة الحماية. اللي حاب يغادر يغادر. أشكركم، أنا موجود، ما حنكمل أي موضوع آخر. نحن حندرس موضوع من 3 إلى 7. اللي حاب يكمل يكمل، اللي ما حاب يكمل يغادر. نحن كده خلصنا. يعطيكم ألف عافية وشكرا لكم. مبارك، في عندك أي سؤال استفسار؟ مبارك مبارك يا مبارك. طيب. الله يعطيك العافية، ونحن غلقنا خلاص. الله يعطيك العافية، شكرا لك. تمام، الله يعطيك العافية، ما في مشكلة أبدا. ما في مشكلة أبدا، ما في إشكال. الله يعطيك العافية وتوصل بالسلامة.
Without further delays as well, I'd like to give the floor to our workers' representative, Ms. Silvana Capuccio. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Do you hear me? Okay, thank you. Hello. And first and foremost, on behalf of the trade union movement, I'd like to express my condolences and my sympathy to all workers and their families members who lost their lives. The ILO.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Manon. Welcome to all of you, also on behalf of the International Organization of Employers. What I would like to say is that protecting lives and ensuring business continuity to protect employment are our top priority. Compliance with a double layer of regulations, one stemming from public health regulations aiming at protecting us as a population, the other the health and safety standards at work aimed at protecting workers and employers. We believe they go hand in hand with good business performance as well as the enhancement of productivity. Expertise and the practical guidance from the World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization, and the International Organization of Employers are key to developing any safe back to work strategy as we slowly recover from the pandemic. Those are the words of our ILO Vice President Mututsi Mbuwaba for the employers. The 2020 ILO World Day for Safety and Health at Work focuses on the outbreak of infectious diseases, particularly economies and operations of non-essential services. We, as IOE, are working with employers' organizations and partner companies on effective guidance and good practice and action for safe back-to-work strategies and the workplace. As a matter of fact, I just spent a whole week, including the nights, developing with colleagues from the trade union in Belgium and from the government to develop a national COVID corona guidance safety back to work. Governments and companies in different sectors of the economy which apply the principle of prevention as a top priority are better placed to navigate the crisis and implement more rapidly safe back to work strategies. The principle of prevention is therefore at the heart of occupational safety and health and at the heart of our business. We look forward to joining efforts with the IMO and the WHO to provide expert advice, practical guidance, and tools tailored to the needs of different sectors for safe back-to-work strategies. Good anticipatory approaches and coordinated impactful action are key to this endeavor. On this special occasion, the IOE reiterates employers' strong commitment to play their part in securing a safe and healthy working environment. We also encourage governments, workers, and international organizations to do their part to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the world of work and to ensure that occupational safety and health at work is a reality for now and the future. I know that all of you out there, workers, employers, or as citizens, all of you are doing your utmost best to help overcome this pandemic. And no matter how small or how big your contribution, what really matters is that what you're doing is helping to keep us all safe. So thank you and stay safe.
Chris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the workers and employers for introducing us. You are one of the two of the main players in the world today in fighting this pandemic. I forgot to introduce myself, so I'm an OSH expert from the ILO, Manal Messi, and I will just take us briefly through the report that the ILO just launched on the occasion of the World Day on this particular issue. Obviously, it's available online. Some of you may have seen it. What we tried to do, thank you to the efforts of a number of colleagues in our branch at headquarters and in the field and a number of different departments and our constituents support in providing examples, we were able to compile really quickly on the main issues here that we are facing. Obviously, the world has entered a new era. It's a modern pandemic that somehow we were not waiting. And Chris mentioned the Occupational Safety Health 101 is prevention, is eliminating at the source, and we're not able to prevent or see this coming, unfortunately. It came really quickly, it hit all the world, and it hit our workforce, and it hit our workplaces. The ILO has repeatedly discussed the impact on our economy, on our jobs. Today we're here to speak about our role as safety health professionals, our role in the safety health community to work together with the public health efforts to help stop the pandemic. So public health and occupational safety health, we had already started to talk as we entered into the future of work, are becoming hand in hand. The services that are provided are affecting both sides. What happens in the workplace affects communities and the other way around. So the report talks a bit about the impact on the world of work, but also discusses a bit the pandemics and how we got here, and then focuses on occupational safety and health management systems, managing the crisis we are in today. Obviously, many enterprises and companies already have such systems and already integrated emergency planning and preparedness in them. But today we are facing a virus that to date we do not know all the specific dimensions of the virus to be able to limit exposures and prevention. But we are following, and the advice is that all authorities, national authorities and governments need to follow closely the scientific update and evidence on the virus and on the susceptibility of certain people to the virus and the various impacts that are happening worldwide. The report then goes on to discuss some of the risks. Obviously, the risk of contagion, the risk of transmission is one of the biggest risks that we are facing worldwide. And because most people are in work premises somewhere, somehow, be it in the formal economy, the informal economy, in large our OSH management systems need to be adapted accordingly to assess the risks at the source and try to eliminate transmission or prevent or mitigate a transmission by different ways. And so when we discuss the risk of contagion, we obviously look at our frontline workers, referred to today as the heroes of today, putting their lives out there to save our own and to save everyone's lives. And these workers have complained a lot, obviously, of a lack of personal protective equipment. They have been exposed to all sorts of psychosocial and financial harassment because they're trying to deliver under a lot of pressure with minimal support and requirements in some countries, in some medical settings, of course. And so the report focuses a bit on these emergency and frontline workers, but also discusses general workplaces and the risk of contagion and limiting and the various control measures that one can take. It doesn't only focus on the risk of contagion. One big area that we've realized globally is the issue of stress and psychosocial risks at work, and they're becoming, a real big burden on the mental health of people generally and workers. And because we are in a world where the lines between our personal lives and our work lives are intertwined, the effects and the ability to juggle all these lives in one has caused certain stresses that for some could cause post-traumatic stress disorder as we slowly move out of this pandemic, which doesn't look like it's anytime soon, but we can see the light. There are efforts to return to work. Obviously, it's not business as usual. It's not business as the way it was before. And as we heard earlier, different guidance and guidelines are developed by national authorities to advise their governments and the national workplaces. Obviously, we don't forget the ergonomic risks, the physical, environmental, and chemical risks sometimes that are associated with the way we are managing this virus, with the different work arrangements that we find ourselves in, and the different sectors that are most affected. And this is affecting. And I guess with the discussion on panelists, because I don't want to take up the floor too long, we will be able to explore some of these issues. I want to remind you all that we received a large number of questions and we will not be able to deal with them all. This is an initial webinar. Hopefully we'll have more to discuss more detail about some of these issues. The main point in the report is really that OSH practitioners, the OSH community as a whole, the involvement of workers in the discussion, the active consultation and assessment of risks and control measures need to be well negotiated, because we need sustainable measures and efforts, and we need everybody to be in on the changes that we are making. And some of them maybe are not easy to comply with, but some, we are all forced with this virus and with the limitations we have. And obviously various engineering controls, administrative controls are already being brainstormed or even implemented in some parts, and we're slowly all discovering what works and what doesn't and what's sustainable in the long run. Without further ado, I'd like to start with our first question to our panelists. In the first question, if I could invite all the panelists to give a very brief overview of their answers, so all our audience can also become familiar with you. So we have 6 expert panelists in addition to our employer and worker experts that intervened earlier in the beginning. I understand that on live Zoom it didn't start broadcasting directly from the beginning, but you didn't really miss too much. And so we'll go straight into the topic. So welcome again to all our panelists. Thank you for joining us from all over the world in different time zones. Obviously, this is a crisis for the world. This is also a crisis for occupational safety health. In your view, what sort of vulnerabilities has this crisis exposed in terms of occupational safety health and in different sectors that we are facing? If I could just get a few impressions from each of you, I'll start with Richard Jones. Please go ahead. You just need to remember to unmute your microphones. Richard, please.
Thank you for the reminder, Manal. I think health and social care are the biggest issues, as well as the COVID-19. We see risks from musculoskeletal disorders, heat stress and fatigue, together with the mental stress that you've already discussed. I think, from my point of view, the main vulnerabilities have included insufficient COVID-19 testing of staff and the provision of PPE. On the other hand, I think
the strengths coming out of this are the use of technology and what's termed as telemedicine. But if I look at the other end of the spectrum, in general office work, working from home can lead to issues of work-life balance and musculoskeletal problems, as well as the psychosocial risk you've already highlighted. But at the other end, it can even lead to domestic abuse. So vulnerabilities here, I think, are IT problems. It's okay relying on technology, but if you lose your internet connection, it's a big problem. And of course, cyber security is always an issue. And strengths, well, again, the use of technology for meetings. A lot of businesses would stop if there wasn't Zoom, I think. And also its use in trying to alleviate people's loneliness. So like virtual coffee mornings, so people can connect with their colleagues on an informal basis.
Thank you, Richard. Chris, your first impression on this, please. Yes. Can you hear me now? Very well. Please go ahead.
Well, it comes as no great surprise. The global pandemic requires a global response, and that really is the theme that I carry through many of my responses. In terms of vulnerability, this is one of the few issues I've seen in many years that I've practiced where public health issues straddle safety and health and economic issues together. So the responses are multifaceted and have taxed most traditional infrastructures everywhere around the world. Global supply chains for needed resources, education learning systems, one unitary understandable communication, which can be addressed to both communities and workers alike, local businesses which need to understand their roles and responsibilities in the face of an issue that they haven't dealt with previously, and fragmented emergency preparedness, response, and recovery systems, including business continuity plans. And it's not to say that organizations don't have them, but oftentimes they're not seamless with the neighborhood or community behavior. In terms of the strength during the pandemic, well, I think it's important to understand that the global issue like this presents a risk that we've heard it said a couple of times this morning already. It presents a risk not only to the health and safety of our communities, but it also disrupts the economic vitality of businesses, people's lives, and organizations worldwide. They're intertwined. I mean, you can't take one without addressing the other. And thus, the risk-related solutions which impact both health and economy can only be resolved with international collaborative partnerships. Governments, international professional organizations, the business community, and labor working together. It's a pandemic issue. It's got to have a pandemic response.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that. I'm moving on to Michelle Robinson. Please give us your insights on the first question. Thank you so much. Please unmute.
Thank you very much, and greetings to the world. It's nice to be able to come together to address this in a very multidisciplinary systems approach. As many of our previous speakers have already mentioned, that we have not only physical issues, but we have psychosocial issues, and how the external environment has really impacted on how we work. There is no new normal. I think the vulnerability is just that we found that our systems have failed and are not supporting the occupational safety and health of our workers. And the employers are having to move forward and to really shift the paradigm of how they're going to have to address this issue. One of the areas of human factors ergonomics is to take a human-centered approach. And I think these are some strategies and theories and principles that we can bring together. And again, taking a very multidisciplinary science approach will help us to address these issues. One of the strong vulnerabilities that I see with our total workers, as Richard has brought up, is just this lack of social connection, lack of connection with the enterprise, lack of working with my co-workers. Technology is a wonderful mediator, but you still are working in your own home environment, and all of a sudden social isolation has escalated. So these are some of the human factors issues that I will be addressing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm moving on to Teresita, who is joining us from the Department of Labor of the Philippines. I know it's quite late for you, as it's quite early for Chris Davis. Thank you so much for joining us. If we could give us some insight
very much, and I would like to greet you all on this day of safety and health. This is the World Day for Safety and Health. In the field, definitely with the lack of a cure and no vaccine, we have to look at prevention. And that is the way where we look at reducing exposure and risk. Then that is safety and health, prevention. And this is where we are trying to put everything together so that we prevent our exposure to the disease, where we talk of simple measures of hand washing, of physical distancing, of wearing the masks. You talk of there is a new normal, and we have to adapt, because that is what is called for at this time. No cure, no vaccine, but we have ways of approaching this problem, so that we can at least look at how to prevent exposure and reduce the risk. PPEs, the issue of PPE is global. We see the lack, it's everywhere. We also have it here, but we are also trying to respond so that, especially for healthcare workers that would need them, they would be provided that protection. But then we go to our workplaces and we look at how to still best reduce exposure, reduce the risk. We look at the WHO, we look at ILO, we also have this all, and from government, we have to have the national agenda. We already have the pharmaceutical interventions. From labor, we're dovetailing with health. We're all creating this coordinated approach, and hopefully we are trying, all of us would like to flatten that curve and eventually try to eliminate this pandemic in the best way we can. But again, minus the cure, minus the vaccine, we can always do the part to reduce the exposure, to reduce the risk. And this is safety and health. So I know this is really the way we are going to prevent this, and we really look forward to all interventions that are happening worldwide.
Thank you so much, Teresita. As you started to speak about, the national collaboration that you have, maybe I can jump to Dr. Mary, who's joined us from South Africa, to tell us how maybe the Ministry of Health in South Africa is coordinating with the Ministry of Labor, and what vulnerabilities and opportunities are you detecting in South Africa? Thank you. Please go ahead.
Manal, it's Director Sami, and thanks for having us on a very important day in the lives of workers, workers in communities, workers in families, and workers of the world. And so it is a critical issue. It's calling for all of society approach to COVID-19. It's not just government, it's not just government departments, but all of society approach. And in terms of the initial part about vulnerability, for us there are particular issues of vulnerability in society. The first issue is the formal workforce versus the informal sector. In many of our countries, including South Africa, we have many workers in the informal economy, and often formal workers often come to the fore in terms of being able to promote and protect and prevent. But when we begin to look at the informal sector, for many of the countries, in low and middle income countries, informal workforces tend to play a major role. The second issue is comorbidities. While we began to look at the issues of age and diabetes and hypertension, immunocompromised status, whether it's HIV or diseases like tuberculosis, are also major issues that affect us. It also affects the respiratory system, and these are critical issues. And work-related disorders, particularly silicosis, coal workers, pneumoconiosis, mining, etc., are also respiratory problems that could also be a major factor in terms of the process. We want to salute all health workers internationally, and particularly those who have lost their lives in the front line, almost similar to Ebola, and be grateful in many ways that workers tend to still have, in terms of the sacrifice they make, particularly health workers. The second group, of course, are essential service workers. So while many countries are in lockdown, depending on the nature of the way they have macro policy issues of government for lockdowns, and the whole issue around community screening and testing and activities in that sense, there are some workers like health workers and other workers that actually work in what we call essential services. So we also want to salute them. As we go towards a post-COVID-19 lockdown, we have to then discuss how do we actually get workplaces ready in terms of the processes of readiness of workplaces, that the workplaces don't become transmission zones. So
restart an entire ecosystem, including supply chains. And the take-home message is plan, do not panic.
Thank you so much, Barry, also for reminding us of the numerous safety and health risks that still exist, even if we are facing a big giant that's an infectious disease. Can I move to our last speaker, Lodi Godoris, for a few initial remarks on the first question? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Manal, and welcome to everybody. You can address some questions as well as occupational health physicians. We are here to support the workers and provide advice and help to those workers that are in the front line. Work is important for health, but safe work is important to prevent occupational and work-related diseases. And that's what it's about. I think, first of all, we need to be aware that COVID-19 can be a new occupational disease. And if you cannot protect the workers, or if the workers get the COVID-19 infection, it's important to recognize and compensate the diseases. I think that's the first important issue I would like to address. Second point, I think the fact that we are working in rather uncommon conditions, we are using a lot of creams and disinfectants, which also might induce allergic skin, but also respiratory health problems. It's also important to have a look at that and to develop a protection for those workers that need to use it. And also here, the recognition of those occupational diseases is very important. And the last issue I would like to add to what the previous panelists have raised is also that we need to be aware about the impact on vulnerable, disadvantaged workers, especially those workers with disabilities. Previous pandemics and also the economic recession we can expect later on has shown that it typically exacerbates pre-existing health inequities. And I think especially for those workers, we must take supportive measures, provide them with PPEs so that they can resume safely and avoid severe health consequences, but also financial consequences due to the pandemic and also the economic recession. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lode. We are running out of time. We did start very late. We still have a number of questions that we're going to address with each of you. I'm going to remind everyone to be as succinct now as possible, moving on so we can cover as many issues. I'd also like to inform our audience that throughout today there are a number of national and regional webinars celebrating or commemorating workers around the world in the event of the World Safety and Health at Work. And so this is just one of these webinars, more global, and our panelists come from different parts of the world, but there are more national and regional webinars being organized globally, some led by the ILO and some led by our constituents. My next question is maybe to Richard, and I may get Barry and Terzita's input on this. We've discussed sort of the risks, the problems out there. How do we prioritize? How do governments, employers, and workers prioritize their safety health action or response to the pandemic in this time of crisis? Richard, if you have some impressions, would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal. Well, IOSH believes that health and safety is a fundamental right for all workers, as I'm sure everybody on this call does, and it must be part of any public health strategy. Decision makers need to seek advice from health and safety professionals who, after all, work across all sectors, in all sizes of organisation, and in all regions of the world, so they can advise as organisation on national and international levels on setting the right health and safety priorities, not just during this crisis, but also during recovery, and ensuring that reliable information is communicated. I think, as has just been said, COVID has reminded the world that communicable diseases can be work-related, and that health and safety at work and public health are now intrinsically linked. Workplaces must be the focus for prevention, but also, sadly, they can be places of transmission unless the risks are properly managed. And to do this, IOSH advocates
to managing health and safety, which includes, among other things, effective emergency planning, risk controls, training of staff and supply chain management, all of which health and safety professionals do on a regular basis, working with managers and workers and other professionals within their organisations. So IOSH would like to see more multidisciplinary working in this way, more health and safety input to public policy, and more health and safety capacity building across the world wherever it's needed. Overall, organisations need strong leadership, worker engagement, and good health and safety advice in order to be able to protect the vulnerable groups. And these will include those at highest risk, like the health and social care workers and other essential workers. We need to think, as mentioned by you, Manal, the informal economy, who sometimes have to make the unacceptable choice between their health and hardship. And even worse, those in modern slavery, compelled to work and subjected to misery and danger. And there are those in the supply chains as well, responding to surges in demand, which, as we know, can lead to long hours working and shortcuts in health and safety. Now, underpinning all of this, IOSH believes in the need for evidence-based practice, which is why we're currently funding research by Turku University in Finland and the University of Leicester in the UK into hospital-acquired staph infections. This is from aerosol transmitted pathogens, which is very timely and is due to report very soon. And it's also why we've partnered with the World Health Organization on a series of webinars on COVID-19 and have engaged recently in a survey of health and safety professionals across the world to gather their experiences during the crisis to help inform future guidelines and practices. But our bottom line is that no worker should lose their life from contracting a communicable disease like COVID-19 at work. And we're very pleased to provide support in this, and our free resources are available to all on our website at ios.com/coronavirus.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. And as you say, we want to prevent that sort, and there are discussions that this may even have started in live animal farming and markets, and the way safety and health actually measures are taken and adopted in these different workplaces could eventually prevent larger outbreaks, and the role is right there. I'm going to quickly go into another question on how this, where control measures to be taken. How do we take into account our small and medium enterprises that may not have the necessary OSH resources? I'm looking maybe to Chris Davis on that. Thank you.
All right, now and everybody else, just a couple of thoughts real quickly. When we talk about strategies and policies, I think it's real important to remember that those need to be crafted under normal working situations, but also be designed to incorporate emergencies so that you're not dealing with that and not having to address emergency features when you're actually in the midst of an emergency. They need to be crafted collaboratively within a company, so all levels of an organization have ownership and are integrated to the business of the business, and not be a flavor of the week program that gets placed on the shelf after the emergency situation subsides. That's just very, very basic. With regard to OHS resources, I don't think it's any great secret that there is a shortage of worldwide. Probably more in the developed parts of the world as opposed to the developing parts of the world. So it's important to appreciate the fact that we are all responsible for safety and health. That includes operations managers, business community, employees, organization staff, which includes QA, engineering, purchasing, and workers alike, which have specific safety and health roles, which must be exercised daily and be prepared to function under tough circumstances. What is the enabler in all this? I believe it's learning and education platforms. Technology plays a big role here. Learning and education can occur from other small and medium business forums, trade councils, trade schools, governmental training centers, professional organizations, universities. These are just some of them. But at the end of the day, education is a powerful enabler, and I think is something that
we need to answer a little bit more quickly to get through some of the questions that I have. Maybe Teresita, after listening to the different requirements also, is there anything that you are doing in the Philippines more targeted to the smaller enterprises in this space to support them? How do you get the knowledge? Knowledge and education is important. How do we reach these small enterprises? How do we consolidate between family work that is happening, in farms, in small farms around the house, or small workshops? How do you get the message across also when people are all unable to practice physical distancing maybe, and the various measures that we are requiring of sanitation and access to clean water and others? What is your experience in the Philippines? Please go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. And actually in the Philippines, yes, all of this have been considered, especially for the micro, the small. And in fact, to assist them, we already prepared programs for them so that even if they're in the small, so that they will have amelioration programs and disinfection programs. That if they do that, they are paid. So, we are putting together an approach where they are going to have their social amelioration, but we're also looking at how they can best disinfect their place of where they live. Of course, it is especially where they work. But remember, we are on a lockdown, so there are only essential services, and that is why we are providing, and they have to be provided for in terms of cash assistance. And our information education campaign is there every day from our small unit of government and barangay, and it is always being said. And
طيب، مثل ما شرحنا سابقا، ذكرنا أن عملية تقييم المخاطر هي عملية في غاية الأهمية. عملية إيش؟ في غاية الأهمية لمعرفة كل الجهات التي يمكن أن تتأثر بالتغيير، وضع خطة عمل تحديد بوضوح الجدول الزمني للتغيير، وأي إجراءات مراقبة يتعين تنفيذها فيما يتعلق بالمعدات والتسهيلات والعملية الإنتاجية والعمليات والصيانة وإجراءات التفتيش والتدريب والعملية والاتصالات والتوثيق. يتعين اعتماد خطة عمل عن طريق الشخص أو الأشخاص المسؤولين يتم استخدامها. في حالة حصولك على الدبلوم من خلال التسجيلات يجب التواصل مع المهندس فارس. انتبه من النقطة هذه، لا تأخذ فقط أن التسجيلات هي التي ستمنحك الشهادة. الشهادة لن تكون مقبولة إلا بعد اطلاع المهندس فارس وإعطائك تقييم على برنامج الدبلوم. تواصل مع المهندس فارس فورا في حالة أخذك أو حصولك على الدبلوم، لأن هناك تقييم مستمر واختبار بسيط يحدد مستواك، وبناء عليه المفترض تصدر الشهادة الرئيسية والرسمية لك والمعتمدة. عمليات الرفع يتعين عدم البدء في القيام بأي عملية رفع، وهذا باستخدام أوناش أو رافع أو أي جهاز رفع ميكانيكي إلا بعد استيفاء الشروط التالية: أن تتم عملية تقييم الرفع وتحديد وسائله وأجهزته المستخدمة من طرف شخص أو أشخاص تشترط لديهم الكفاءة لذلك. أن يكون القانون بتشغيل أجهزة الرفع التي تعمل بالطاقة أشخاص مدربين ومعتمدين للتعامل مع هذه الأجهزة. أن يتم رفع الحمولة بمعرفة شخص أو أشخاص أكفاء. أن يكون استخدام أجهزة الرفع معداتها لم يتعدى 12 شهرا الأخيرة كحد أدنى. لا تتعدى الحمولة القدرات الديناميكية والثابتة وحدها من أجهزة الرفع. أن تكون جميع أجهزة الأمان موجودة على جهاز الرفع عاملة وليس بها أي عطل. أن تتم عملية فحص فعلي في كل أجهزة معدات الرفع قبل كل عملية رفع بواسطة شخص أو أشخاص كفاء. الدخول الأماكن المغلقة لا يتم الدخول الأماكن المغلقة إلا في الأحوال التالية: أن يكون قد تم استبعاد جميع الخيارات الأخرى. أن يصدر التصريح بدخول الأماكن المغلقة متضمنا تفويضا بذلك من الشخص أو الأشخاص المسؤولين. يتم إبلاغ التصريح إلى الجهات المختلفة المشتركة في التنفيذ، ويمكن أيضا وضع صورة منه في مكان العمل طلب الأمر ذلك. أن توفر لدى كل الأشخاص المعنيين بهذا الإجراء الكفاءة اللازمة للقيام بهذا العمل. أن تكون كل مصادر الطاقة التي تؤثر على هذا المكان قد تم عزلها. أن يكون قد تم اختبار الهواء والتحكم نتيجة الاختبار وتكرار عدد المرات. ضرورة تواجد شخص احتياطي بالخارج استعانة به بالخارج. إجراءات أعمال الحفر: لا يتم البدء في القيام بعمل حفر أو خندق أو منخفض في سطح الأرض عن طريق رفع التربة إلا تتم على ذلك. ضرورة القيام بتقييم المخاطر انتوى عليها موقع العمل بمعرفة الشخص أو الأشخاص المختصين.
ضرورة معرفة كل المخاطر الموجودة تحت الأرض، أي المواسير والكابلات الكهربائية إلى آخره، وتحديد موقعها وعزلها إذا لزم الأمر. في حالة دخول أفراد الحفرة يتم إصدار تصريح بدخول مكان معلق إذا كان المكان ينطبق عليه تعريف المكان المغلق. ضرورة التحكم في التحرك فوق الأرض والحيلولة دون حدوث انهيار، وذلك عن طريق عمل دعامات وانحدارات ومصاطب إلى آخره حسب ما يكون مناسب. يجب وضرورة مراقبة الظروف البيئية بصفة مستمرة. ده تغيير معظم الشعب الحفري بعمق يزيد عن 20 بوصة، يمكن 3 إلى 6. مهندس مختص يقوم بتحديد تلك الحفرة. قاعدة الأمان الخاص بالمركز، لا يتم تشغيل المركبات. ضرورة تشغيل المركبات تأكد من صحتها لاستخدامها بطريقة آمنة، أن تتم قيادتها من طرف سائقين مدربين معتمدين لقيادة هذه الفئة المركبات التي يفوق عدد الركاب بالسيارة العدد المحدد لها وفق التصميم المنظم الصانع. لا بد من توافر أحزمة الأمان بالسيارة ومن استخدامها جميع الموجودين بالمركبة. من الضروري ألا يستخدم السائق تليفون محمول ممسوك باليد والتليفون اللاسلكي في أثناء القيادة. من الضروري ينال السائق قسطا وافرا من الراحة قبل قيادة المركبة. يجب القيام بعملية تفتيش المركبة للتأكد من توافق النواحي الخاصة بالتشغيل مع الحالة الميكانيكية للسيارة. ننوه في حالة حصولك على الدبلوم من خلال فقط سماعك للتسجيلات فهذه تعتبر شهادة ملغية، ويجب التواصل مع الهندس فاز لعمل تقييم لك قبل حصولك على شهادة الدبلوم. ننتبه للنقطة هذه فهي مهمة جدا. القاعدة الذهبية للسلامة المهنية في عملية الإنتاج المنظمة. عزل مصادر الطاقة. لا يمكن الإقدام على أي عملية عزل مصادر الطاقة سواء كانت ميكانيكية أو كهربية أو عمل خاص بالإنتاج أو النواحي الهيدروليكية أو غيرها إلا إذا تم الآتي: أن تتم الموافقة على أسلوب العزل وتصريف الطاقة المختزنة وتنفيذ ذلك بمعرفة شخص أو أشخاص لديهم الكفاءة للقيام بذلك. أن يتم تصريف أي طاقة مختزنة، استخدام نظام الإقفال وضغط البيانات في نقاط العزل، إجراء اختبار دوري لفعالية العزل. العمل على ارتفاعات. قبل العمل على ارتفاع مترين 6 أقدام وأكثر من السطحات يجب أن يتم عمل الآتي: استخدام رصيف ثابت بأسوار لمنع السقوط أو لمسها باليد، وأن يتم التحقق من ذلك معرفة شخص أو أشخاص مختصين. استخدام أجهزة منع السقوط، تمام، وقدرها 2225 كيلو جرام. لكل شرط تكون مزود الآتي: خطاف محمول مناسب، ويفضل أن يكون أعلى من مستوى الرأس. أحزمة الجسم كله مع استخدام ألسنة قفل مزدوجة تغلق ذاتيا عند كل وصلة. شرائط من الألياف الصناعية. أجهزة التخفيف من شدة الصدمات. أجهزة منع السقوط تسمح بالسقوط من مسافة مترين أو أقل. لا بد من إجراء فحص ظاهري لجهاز منع السقوط من استبعاد أي جهاز معطل. يتم تدريب الشخص يؤدي العمل على الأخطار الموجودة. تصريح العمل. قبل القيام بأي عمل يشمل دخول أماكن مغلقة، التعامل مع أنظمة الطاقة، تحديد مجال العمل، تحديد المخاطر وتقييمها، وضع ضوابط لذلك المخاطر وتقييم الحدث، توضيح العلاقة بين هذا العمل وتصريح العمل الأخرى، التأكد من صدور التصريح من شخص وأشخاص، ضمان وجود مراقبة كافية للعمل أن يتم العودة للعمليات، توضيح جميع النقاط السابقة لكل المعنيين بالعمل. طيب، نأتي إلى تصريح العمل. ومثل ما ذكرنا سابقا من تصريح العمل قبل القيام بأي عمل يشمل دخول الأماكن المغلقة أو التعامل مع أنظمة للطاقة أو القيام بأعمال حفر في الأرض في مواقع قد توجد بها مخاطر كامنة، أو التعامل مع الحرارة في بيئات يمكن حدوث انفجار فيها. يتعين الحصول على ما يسمى بتصريح يتضمن الآتي: تحديد مجال العمل، تحديد المخاطر وتقييمها، وضع ضوابط لإزالة المخاطر أو التخفيف من حدتها، توضيح العلاقة بين هذا العمل وتصاريح العمل الأخرى المصاحبة أو العمليات التي يتم إجراؤها في نفس الوقت، التأكد من صدور التصريح من الشخص أو الأشخاص المسؤولين، ضمان وجود مراقبة كافية للعمل إلا أن تتم العودة للعمليات العادية، توضيح جميع النقاط السابقة لكل المعنيين بالعمل. واضح؟
هذه ما يخص إجراءات التصريح العمل. نسأل الله تعالى التوفيق والسداد، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد.